and then I'll play. Let's do. What do you think? Like this one?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do this one.
What about that other song you showed me last one?
What was the other one like? What was the other one? How's the other one go?
It was about something hilarious.
The Korean?
No, it was about something funny, but they're all good. They're all always so good. But the last one was a funny one.
They blew up Gaza for a parking lot?
Yeah, that's the one.
Said it was freedom,
said it was planned.
Now there's neon lights where homes used to stand. The past is gone, don't you
better understand? They blew up Gaza.
Built a shopping mall. No more Palestine, just casinos.
Casinos, real talk. With a wrecking ball.
They blew up Gaza for a
shopping mall.
I
know the lyrics.
The ancient stones.
Stefan right here. Is Nasara and US Inevitable?
Glass and steel, where the children played. A paradise lost, but profits are made. They blew
up Gaza for a shopping mall.
No more Palestine, just casinos, real talk. Turned every ruin to a luxury hall. They blew up Gaza, built
for a shopping mall.
Jackpots flashing, the tourists cheer, but ghosts still whisper, do you hear?
Do you hear the ghosts?
No more prayers, no more calls, just credit cards and mirrored halls. And they'll say, wasn't there something before? As they drink champagne on the coast, they blew up Gaza, built a shopping mall.
I wish like Hannah Montana would cover this.
Oh my god, yeah. It feels like it belongs in Harriet the Spy. Shout out Michelle Trachtenberg. Dude, did I tell you that I was following... Okay, I had a weird week because I was watching a bunch of random movies, and Superman... I'd never seen the original Superman. And I was like talking to my friend Superman, E10. You know, he's been on the show a couple times, the Israeli guy. And we were talking...
Is it Etienne?
Yeah, it's like Ethan or Etienne, yeah, whatever. But like Superman, who, if he wasn't afraid of green rocks, right? He's been on the show. Superman, if he wasn't afraid of green rocks, as you know. And we sent his mom the song. She thought it was hilarious. But I was talking about Superman. Like Superman is very Jewish. And we brought this up on the show before. He's not like some Aryan blonde guy. You know, he's like he's a Sephardic Mizrahi Jew and his name is Kal El, right? Elohim, you know, part of the whole thing. And in the Superman movie, they show Superman as a baby being found in the South in Kansas, right? And when they find him, he's naked, and they show a baby penis. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, you know, it's basically child pornography to show this baby's penis in a 1975 or whatever movie.
Yeah, it's like the original Dragon Ball, kind of. You know, they were.
It's crazy. Yeah, and like, but the reason, like, why would you show this one baby's penis? Like, what are you trying to say? And if you look at it, which I don't recommend, but if you did, you would see it was circumcised. And it's like, oh my god, they had to have done that on Krypton.
Yeah,
because they don't have kryptonite bris tool. What's that thing called? The bris
clippers?
tool.
I just call it the foreskin clippers. You know.
No, it's got a name though.
A bristle, yeah, that's the name. It's the official name of it. Your penis clipper it's the bristle. It's basically a nail clipper, but for your foreskin instead of your fingernails.
What is the Jewish name for a circumcision tool? It's called
And do they sell it on Amazon? Because I might need one for novelty.
A meziza, or is that right? Or is it the Ishmael? Is it the Ishmael?
I don't know. Like, where can I get one? Can I just cop it off eBay or something? Hopefully not used, because that just doesn't feel right.
The mohel. Oh, okay. A mohel.
Yeah, mohel.
The mohel. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, they don't have a kryptonite mohel on Earth, so it must have been done on Krypton, and they're showing you that. Like, as soon as the baby arrives on Earth, you're figuring out these goyim are picking up and adopting a Jewish baby. You know, and that's like the interesting thing about Superman. Okay, but I hadn't really watched that movie, so I watched the rest of the Superman movies and was thinking about Gene Hackman.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, because he was clearly dead while I was watching it. He must have died like a week before they found him, at least.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like a few days. So I'm watching him while he's dead, or maybe dying, or something like that.
Mhm.
And I don't remember how this happened. I think it was because of Eurotrip, like a few months ago. I was thinking about the movie Eurotrip, and I really love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I'm
Yeah.
watching all of the Buffy, and I'm getting to season 4, the dream where she's like, wake up before dawn. And Dawn's the name of her sister, which is Michelle Trachtenberger's character.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I wonder what's up with these, because I follow some of these Buffy actors still. And I saw somehow a post through Instagram. I followed her on Instagram, and the next day she was dead. And it was like, yeah, it's like 2 celebrities. It's like, I can't even. So someone told me, like, next time I watch a bunch of movies about a celebrity, make it Tom Hanks or something. Just, make it someone you don't mind losing. But Michelle Trachtenberger, rest in peace. Kind of like, it hits me harder than it should. I don't know what it is, if it's just that she's so young, like 39, but the fact that she was, a child star. I don't like it when child stars die in horrible ways.
Well, like River Phoenix.
Yeah, that one bothers me a lot. I can't even go into that bathroom anymore,
Okay.
at the House of Blues. Like, it makes me uncomfortable, Like, yeah, for real. Like, when I was working at the House of Blues doing shows, I used to not be able to handle going to the bathroom. I'd go to the building next door, because I did it a couple times. I just always felt weird. But yeah, I mean, she could have died from hepatitis. I don't know. I don't think she had hepatitis, but like, that's a reasonable way that your liver fails. It could have been because of alcoholism. If it's so, that's even sadder, because she was so against drugs and alcohol as a kid that she must have. I mean, she could have fallen into it later in life. Yeah, without having any practice as a kid, like, or something like that. Could possibly be it. Or she could have had some horrible fatty liver tissue disease. Who knows? But it's horrible, because I was thinking it before it happened, because I'm looking at pictures of her, and it's like, you can see she has jaundice. Her like skin's yellow, her eyes are yellow. Yeah. And it's like, people were worried about her, and she died the next day, man. Like, it was of a failed liver transplant that no one knew about. So it was kind of sad. Yeah. All right. That's my story.
Rest in peace, beloved celebrities that we like that are dead now. I kind of did the same thing, and I it's irrational, but I kind of blame myself. Like,
you should blame yourself for the death of Gene Hackman. It is your fault.
No, not Gene Hackman, but equally beloved was maybe even more so. I think around like 2015, I kept making the joke. I was like, just watch, yo. Stanley's gonna die soon. Stanley's gonna be dead soon. Like, before you guys know it, Stanley's gonna be fucking dead. And then, everyone's like, shut the fuck up. Like, don't say that, whatever. And then he actually died. Like,
which Stanley you're talking about?
The Marvel guy.
Oh, Stan Lee. Stanley.
No, I'm not talking about Stanley.
No, it's like Stanley Yelnats, Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, Stan Lee. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it had to happen. He was. I mean, if there's anybody though who lived a quality life, I mean, honestly,
I don't know.
Can you say mad respect?
Yeah, mad respect for his achievements. But I heard like he got into some shit with his kids, and now his kids were trying like. Maybe one of his daughter's boyfriends or something tried to take all of his money. I don't know. All of his kids are probably shit.
Yeah, and that's true, probably. I mean, he was an interesting go-getter, because he understood on a deeper Kabbalistic level mythology, and he understood big picture thinking. So he invented this idea of like, I'll just make a quick preliminary comic here, and you'll fill it out. So he like Stan Lee outline comic. Let me see if I can find an example. Yeah, you build a framework, and then you have some bubbles there, and you just be like, you fill in the bubbles, you put the art in here. And he got, he'd like do like a little quick design, and then people would do all the work for it, like an outline framework. Anything like that? I give up.
You call it like a Stan Lee style template, or like a modus operandi. Yeah.
He's like, this is what I want to happen. I want it to see like the window breaks, and then you got 4 quick motions, and then he's going to say something about this here, and this is the point where he says, I'm your father, or whatever, and like gives it to the artist,
like a single panel page and shit.
You give him like 30, he might give him 30 pages though that have just a little bit in there. It's like, this page I want to be 4 images. This page, near the 30th page, it's got to have this plot twist, and this is the plot twist page. And then the artist is like, okay, I'm following along. Here's where, and then they can put in their own pictures, and they put in their own like lyrics and lines and comic words and verses and whatever. and it was their own work, but it was their own work that he was paying them to do, that he wanted to serve a purpose. It's like, okay, this is a comic book where we're going to find out this plot device, which I need for other comics. Like, we're going to introduce, the CIA in Special X with Wolverine. I'm just trying to give an example or something like that. So you can write all of your own ideas into that comic, so long as you presented on page 30 this character that we need to introduce. And so they gave you just a little bit of an outline of what to do, but he was able to then say, okay, I don't really care if it's exactly like Walt Disney used to delete film if he didn't like exactly what you did.
Have like frame skips and shit, but it was like, it worked anyway because it made
or
sense.
he made you redo it. He'd be like, no, complete, like, we wasted a month, do it again. Stan Lee didn't do that so much. Stan Lee was like, okay, cool, we're going to work with this. He's very, very flexible.
Honestly,
and so it just built a bunch of artists up.
I mean, as far as what like Stanley created, the way I see it, he's like, when it comes to art, like visual art, he was like the guy who invented McDonald's. Because think about it, like when it comes to creating like an actual single canvas piece of artwork, you basically have one big panel, and then you create your horizon line and then your vanishing point, so everything's like properly in perspective. When you break up a canvas basically into like single panels like that, you're basically creating an assembly line for story, using like multiple pictures. So you could create every panel having its own like horizon point, and then create like your own art pieces. And then you layer on dialogue bubbles and all that shit. So it's like, if you look at McDonald's, right, compared to like a restaurant, like that plans out multiple course dinners and all that shit. And it's basically like one big canvas, meant specifically for that course. Whereas McDonald's is like, yo, we created a model that like anyone could fucking steal, and it's basically panel based.
Well, you're not supposed to steal it. That's the interesting thing about McDonald's. They really push for trade. Well, the trademarking of a franchise. It's like, this is our way of doing things, and if you don't like it, you can be a Domino's franchise. Basically,
for the records, I love McDonald's. I do. I'm a fan of McDonald's.
I'm a Marxist. I think the idea of a McDonald's Marxist future, each according to their needs, like a Maha McDonald's thing. I like the idea of that. Hey, Blue Dreamer is here with us. Blue Dreamer Broadcast, who interviewed us both. Love you, bro. He says, much love to you both. Oh, that's hilarious. Same. How strong is the contemplation of what life is really about on a daily basis? Hare Krishna.
Yo, I was just to that, I would say like Andreas and I, every time we go into these fucking like multiple people panels, we're always talking about like the heaviest shit. So it's like when I get Andreas one-on-one, it's like a rare treat to just like shoot this shit.
Let's talk about comic books. Yeah, that's
no,
fun.
I mean, I love it. I feel like you and I could pretty much have a good time talking about probably like anything,
I do love comic books. I've been, we wanted to talk about comics a few weeks ago because Vincent and I, but more Vincent than me, was really, I'm still bummed about it. Neil Gaiman turning out to be like a DNC Anthony Weiner Podesta Predator kind of guy,
Yeah.
Like, did you hear about all that, right? Like, so the guy who made the Sandman comic book, and I was already processing that he was doing Netflix, and I was like, good job. You're playing the game. You're letting them make your characters into women and black and doing whatever.
He got sandbagged.
Sandman got sandbagged. Yeah.
Well, you saw it coming because you met the guy and you were like, yeah, I got those vibes,
Yeah, well, even just the fact that he was in Connecticut. No offense, because I love all my friends in Connecticut, but like, you're alone out there, right? Like, it's all it's a weird place.
You have to have a lot of like psychological fortitude to live in places like that. But on the topic of Stan Lee, I just want to say, like, first of all, Stan Lee was a military man. Like, we all know that. And I think like certain media titans, like certain titans of media industry that we still like to this day like give credit to, I think they're like a part of a long running media psyop. I mean, it's obvious. Like, they're definitely part of a psyop. Him, and who else is a big one? Fucking Tom Clancy. I think Tom Clancy was like definitely like a huge operator. Like maybe he wanted to be a military man, but then the government was like, you have a knack for storytelling, so we're just going to give you the whole framework, like the esoteric occult framework of how to like capture attention and like point it towards like, hey, you guys should totally venerate and like look up to government spooks like CIA analysts like Jack Ryan and shit. And you also got guys like Stan Lee saying you guys should venerate guys like war heroes like Captain America punching Hitler. I mean, I'm not saying the psyops are 100% malicious. I'm just saying, like, I think
for sure they think they're helping you. I mean, that's a lot of this is like you just are saying, it comes out of the U.S. Army Signal Corps and the British Signal Corps as well. And so Signal Corps was in charge of communications, propaganda, secret codes, and messages. But that all bleeds together into, I mean, American media. Like American media is a little bit of all of that. It's a little bit of propaganda. It's a little bit of edutainment,
advertising.
Yeah, it's public public relations awareness. They want to
Yeah.
help you understand these very important concepts that other people wouldn't understand, right?
Yeah. There's one thing that they always lean on, though. You could tell it's one of those things if they're very gratuitous about the violence, because violence is like the one thing that doesn't seem to violate like Judeo-Christian moral boundaries. You know, when
It's weird,
to,
right?
Yeah.
You can kill like anybody on TV. You can have cartoons killing each other, but the moment they kiss,
that's
Tom
but-
and Jerry. As soon as they kiss, it's over. But they can murder each other. No one minds,
Well, you're taking the emotional formula of like, if you see infidels against our God, you kill them. It's taking that and turning it into like, if you see Russians trying to launch a nuke in our country, you fucking kill them. If you see a Chinese like triad terrorist like trying to launch a nuke for economic,
you kill them dead.
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
a movie that my friend Alex. It's a very strange movie. It's called Felidae, and it's about these cats. It's about a cat who works for his master. Hold on, let me see if I can do this right. His master is a Rosicrucian Egyptologist who writes gossip columns in some tabloid. And they move into some terrifying mansion, and in the mansion there's like a secret cult, run by like these terrifying cats that like electrocute each other.
What?
It's an electroshock cult. I'm gonna try to get to the scene so you see what I'm talking. It's right up here, yeah. There's just cats being electrocuted. That is
Holy
crazy.
shit.
Yeah, and they're all like, yeah, I must jump into the cat electrocution thing and
This
kill
is like
myself.
this is like hentai if you swap sex with violence, pretty much.
No, you're getting there. That's my point. So I'm watching this, and this is a Turco-German movie. It's like a Turkic-German movie. So the guy's a Turk raised in Germany, and they made this movie with European artists, and it looks a lot like The Aristocrats. In fact, this is funny. At this exact moment, the cat says, what I was looking at was definitely not like a scene out of The Aristocrats, And so, but at a certain point, I'm like, okay, so you've got every possible thing going on in this movie. You've got cats murdered. I think he meets this where's the nice lady cat he meets?
Like the Persian.
Yeah, he meets this nice blonde lady cat. And where is it at? Is it right here? Something like that. Basically, you see a bunch of cats disemboweled. I think it's like like some of the most violent things I've ever seen, actually. It was pretty impressive. Like the cats are torn apart and ripped from limb to limb.
Like Bambi when Disney doesn't have the balls, basically.
They don't have the balls to do what they do. Is this right here? I think it's right here. I think it's right right around this scene here. Like they come outside in the town and they find like a corpse of a body. Where is that? Right here. Okay. Right here.
It's kind of like a detective story.
It's totally a detective story about a black cat who finds out his black brother. It's all about blacks too.
It's like feline noir. That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see it. With the
Yeah,
throat out.
look how brutal.
Whoa.
Look how,
Are those
yeah,
baby kittens?
Can you imagine? Yeah, dude, if you were a frigging child and you saw this movie, I don't think it would matter to a lot of people because we're so used to violence now, but it seems like it's a lot, right? To see disemboweled people and everything like that. Okay. So then there's this scene. Is it right here? So I'm watching the movie and I'm not freaking out too much because like I'm used to violence in kids' movies. I grew up with it. But all of a sudden he sees this sexy cat. And then that sexy cat and him, they do some stuff, bro. Like look at that. You see what's coming. I mean, yeah. Basically, they have a whole mating thing that goes on that is really weird. Like, I've never seen cats this is the most normal animal sex I've ever seen in any movie. But it's straight up, yeah. They literally look at like the nails. I'm afraid to even show it to you because it seems like that's what I can show you a disemboweled cat. I can show a 6-year-old a disemboweled cat. But the moment I show a cat biting the back of another cat's neck and reproducing, that seems weird to me. I feel like sex and violence, right? We're allowed to talk about violence, but sex is not okay. This is straight up a movie where most of it, I was like, okay, they're disemboweling cats. That's normal. But then it was the sex that
The
got
sex
me.
scene, and you were like, okay, why is this such
Why is
graphic
this-
animal sex being presented to me right now?
And why is that? Why is that so weird? To me, it seems weird that
All right, first of all, let's call it what it is. It's good art. Okay, that
It's
is
great
good.
art.
It's
It's
good.
a fantastic
sincere-
movie.
Yeah, it's good, sincere, honest art, and like the fact that they even show like the neck biting and everything, which is what that's what cats do.
It's
And
really accurate. Yeah, it's like exactly how cats mate. It's real.
I think it's what's disturbing about it is it reminds us that like humans are the only species on Earth to really have like consensual sex. Everyone else, every other beast in this fucking planet is pretty much just like, just forcefully like sexually assaulting each other in their weird animalistic mating rituals.
Well, I'm pretty sure she's into it, but you know what? I say
Well, in
watch
Heat,
Felidae. Yeah,
it's
she's
more
in,
like
she's in Heat. Yeah,
yeah, dude.
She can't help herself.
Yeah, I am sick right now. I just need some cat penis. Yeah,
I need
that's
Senor Gato.
Yeah.
I need Puss in Boots. I know
So,
what you. I know.
while we're on the subject, maybe because like I feel like I'm in between like you and the age group that this is probably like most relevant to.
Yeah,
So
because we were growing up with Animal Planet, and we used to have on Animal Planet. You used to see animals mating.
Yeah.
That's gone now. That's our
Yeah.
generation. We've seen. It's crazy how much you and I and our generation have seen.
Yeah.
Think about it. In all of history, has anyone else seen all of World War I, all of World War II, all of Vietnam, all of the sex, all the rape, all the crime? We saw it all. And Animal Planet.
Yeah. And also actually that's that's all definitely true, and everything.
No generation before us ever saw this. No, I mean World War I, people didn't see World War I. World War II, no one saw World War II. They just saw fake propaganda films. We've seen declassified death for centuries, and the entire history of every violent thing that's ever happened. We were as children exposed to that, and then we had the internet and Rotten.com. I mean,
yeah, and also Live Leak. I remember the day Live Leak just got fucking done. Like I remember when it was no longer the same Live Leak.
Ooh,
I mean,
how that changed? What happened?
Well, you used to see crazy shit. You used to see like all the cartel videos. I won't get into too much detail. In fact, Live Leak was the only place where I actually saw like a karate fight to the death, and it wasn't cool. It wasn't awesome. It was just like it was in the 70s, and like some crazy like whacked out, drugged up like black hippie dude with a huge afro. He's super skinny. He goes into this karate dojo that was run by like this like former like army major, and he was like this brolic, like uptight, like straight back black dude, and he was like tough, and he was like an obvious like black belt or whatever. And then the hippie dude goes, I'm a master of kung fu karate taught by Jesus Christ, and I'm come here to teach you. And the karate school really didn't like it, so they, I guess they set up the camcorder, and I watched this guy like beat him so bad that like as soon as he hit the ground, he just does like a straight like angled downward stomp on his neck, and you just hear him gurgling. And right before the camera cuts off, you just hear him like throw him out back. And I was like, holy shit, and then I remember like I think it was only like a year after that, Live Leak just no longer had that kind of content. They were like,
right,
yeah, they just scrubbed it, which
yeah,
I guess
I feel like you had Saddam Hussein was when it came to fame. They were the ones to leak the Saddam Hussein death video to the public. And they also had an anti-Quranist film, the Fitwa film that they put up. But I always thought that Live Leak and Ogrish were MI5 British Signal Corps propaganda sites to begin with. And I think the CIA was involved with Rotten.com as well. So the fact that they were showing us so many things, I mean, that's desensitizing in a certain level as well. But it was something that changed everything, because before that, there was no generation like this. In the 70s, you didn't get to see dictators get killed. You know what I mean? That's very special. And I mean, we were welcomed into a weird world, man.
Yo, I'll be honest with you. I don't think I ever sat through like a full like execution or torture of it. I remember the last big deal one was, I think it was a Westerner that got taken by some Middle Eastern terrorist cell. And the whole thing was like him getting his head sawn off. And I was like, I tried to watch it, and as soon as I saw like a little bit of it, I was just like, yeah, I can't.
It makes you uncomfortable? Weird. You don't like seeing someone disemboweled and their head cut off while they...
I'm sorry, but I had a lot of friends who were like, yeah, I watch this shit all the time. Like,
yeah,
it's
me too. I don't completely understand. And I heard about this stuff at church. It was at a Santa Cruz Bible church that I learned about Rotten.com for the first time anyway. And it was, I think, from a youth minister who was watching this stuff. So, I mean, there's definitely, I think the more normal you are, the weirder you're likely to be. That so luckily I don't really fit in that category, but I just think that they were showing this stuff in order to, you know, to pick out of the people. Okay. And also people get forced to see this stuff. So I had a friend who worked for YouTube as a censor in 2007 to 10, I think it was. And so for 3 years, he's working as a YouTube censor, and they were uploading, people upload these kinds of videos to YouTube, and the automated systems will take them down. But for the most part, they had to have humans checking that stuff originally.
And it caused
So
like PTSD.
He's completely screwed up now. Yeah, he's forever ruined. And he knows it. It's like he's been through so many horrible things in life. He thought it'd be fine to do this job. And then he would every day watch people cut dicks off and watch heads being cut off and the crazy stuff. And so the way YouTube works is they don't actually delete videos. They just hide them from everyone except for the administration, or even hide them from the administration so that only the AI can see it. Right. And so but like they had to pay for all this therapy for all of these people, and there's just nothing you can do at a certain point when you clockwork orange somebody, because that's what they did. They make him keep his eyes open 8 hours a day, looking at beheadings. That's he had to do that every day.
Did they pay him well? Like, I hope they gave him a good.
It was all right, I guess. I mean, I thought it was impressive at the time. I think in 2007 he was probably getting like $20 an hour or something like that. It's not super great, but it was like better. You know, I mean, it's enough to trick a guy into thinking it's worth it to watch beheading videos all day for months and months and months.
Yeah. I mean, I also think like the severity is on a spectrum too. Like I remember there were subreddits that also got taken down by now, like watch people die. And like one of the more interesting comments I would read is like every time like the subreddit gets under threat of being taken down, you'd have like people make these like sob story posts like, oh, I just want to say like I'm a EMT emergency responder. And these videos helped me desensitize myself. So like I won't be so freaked out when it comes to shit. And now like when I'm on the job, it's like it's whatever, you know, like it's just another day on the job, like seeing like a bunch of trash on the street.
Liquid's asking what happened to that movie Try and Censor This. Okay, so just a really quick explanation what he's talking about. So if you go to my Odyssey page, it's still up on Odyssey. Let me try to get the window open. So if you go to odyssey.com/MKUltra, I think it'll work. Yeah, I have the highest bid for the MKUltra video. This is a 5-hour video that I made at some point. And I think what happened was COVID had just hit, and they were all, everyone was away from work. And the way YouTube works is that they'll do a copyright strike with a machine. You can contest it, and then someone has to review your contest, and they either confirm or deny, and they have 20 days or something like that to do it. And if they don't, then the video just is acceptable, right? So I ended up putting this video up on YouTube, and at the time, it was allowed to air because everyone was gone at work that month. It was COVID 2020. They were just disappeared.
It was a vulnerability point.
It was a vulnerability point, and I definitely exploited that vulnerability point. And I made this amazing...
That's pretty
basically I recommend everyone spend 5 hours of their life at some point watching this fair use expose on MKUltra.
I mean, the longest I would go is like 4 hour videos from Noah Gervais or whatever. He's like the best video game essay video writer ever fucking seen. Everyone knows him. I think his name is like Noah C. Gervais or whatever, but there's him. He's made like 1 3 hour one that I think I'm aware of. But yeah, that's good shit. I think like, you know what that reminds me of? During COVID, when there was like no traffic on the street, there was one guy that absolutely demolished the Cannonball Run. I think it was going from like the east to west coast, and like the record was, I don't even know the exact numbers, but like after COVID, like the guy did it, like he loaded up his car with like auxiliary fuel tanks and like police scanners out the wazoo, and he just booked it when there were no cars, because it was a global pandemic, and a lot of people aren't even counting that. Like, what do you say to that? Like, do you think like it should be like omitted from the records or the Hall of Fame?
No, I don't
No.
think so. I think
Because
we need to
he's it's
remember
like
why it happened. Like it
Yeah.
was because there was no traffic, but I still think it has to be. It's a record that can't ever be beaten again. I don't know. I'm a big fan of keeping records. I hate how in the Olympics somebody will do something incredible and then they'll be like, "Well, that's dangerous.
It doesn't
Let's
count."
make that illegal." Yeah, it's like,
You know what? You got to look at it because you know why? You're a Californian and you think like a surfer. It's like, hey, waves come when they fucking come. You know, it's like when the
that
big
might be true. Actually, I think there's
Yeah.
something to that.
when the big kahuna comes, and there's no discussion. It's like, oh yeah, bro, this wave is only coming once every 100 years. Like,
Right. Yeah, storms make things happen. You need chaos and everything. I don't know. I think it's important to break the rules also. Like I think rules are kind of dumb conventions for the most part anyway.
Yeah,
Not
for sure.
always, no, but
No, but I also know that you don't 100% believe that because you're also an engineer, and I do know that like where there's like in a technical field where there's limitations, it forces you to be more creative. Like,
yeah,
you know,
I
like,
mean, even as an artist, you'd say that like a canvas makes you paint in that box, and amazing art will come out of having a small canvas with only so many colors to work with. You give a guy nothing but a black pen, you might see incredible patterns, right?
yeah,
But I think also that's different. So like laws for me, like if you're talking about engineering laws, like I don't look at that word doesn't mean the same thing. So you might say like, what is it? The speed of light is a law. You know what I mean? It's like it's not constant. It's something that can change. But you can't really break the speed of light. You know, time continuity is sort of a law. Things move forward. Causation, these are laws, right? I mean, if you say like, there can't be gay people or something like that, but there are gay people, then that's not a real law of nature. That's
No.
some sort of a convention, and conventions are often misplaced in our mind as laws. I think that's a problem. I just want to say, oh wait, freaking really, Adam? What the heck? What does it feel like to be inside your brain every day? Did you ever drink like 6 coffees and feel like you had to go to the hospital? I don't know. Like that. Like I kind of feel like kind of worried all the time that I'm gonna disintegrate and go completely insane.
I think if I drank 6 coffees, I would just puke. I think I would throw up. We know if I was like 17, I would be like, yeah, I could take 6 coffees, no problem. But like at my age now, I think I really feel it, especially because I only eat once a day. I'm like, I weigh half as much. Shit, I'm becoming a withered old man.
You gotta
Love
be
it.
careful, yeah.
No, it's all good though.
I feel a certain amount of stress that I can't escape myself. But like at the same time, I've learned to live with it. Kalani49 says, love channel. What's is the Kolbrin? The Kolbrin. I don't know what the Kolbrin is. Is that like you talking about Graham Hancock's Kolbrin? Is that what this is about? Like the guide to Graham Hancock's Kolbrin? I don't really, I should know more about that. I don't really know
No.
anything about the Kolbrin. I don't know. What to tell you.
You shouldn't. Honestly, no one should lament not knowing something. Not knowing something is way better than knowing something, in my opinion, because then you get the opportunity to learn it.
That's kind of what I meant just now. I was like, well, here's something I should learn about, and I will take the time to look into, but I don't have any off the top of my head thing about this. I guess this is a book. I haven't read it. I'm sorry. I don't know. Let's look at it. You guys want to tell me about the Kolbrin? Tell me about the Kolbrin. I'm happy to learn. It sounds like some sort of Gaelic mythology. Graham Hancock lies to sell books. Is that what you think? That seems like a great way to sell books, though, Aaron. Why don't you do it? You should probably do that. The Kolbrin Bible, they're saying. All right, I'll look into it by next week. We'll have a thing on it. The British Book of Mormon, Kalani says. Never, I don't know. Yeah, look into it.
Damn, dude. I just I'm kind of upset and sad how over the alien stuff I am. Like I'm just like, great, another whistleblower, awesome, yeah, UFO, great, like another whistleblower, another military man coming out and telling us all about.
It's funny, all these guys who are like low key nothing burger podcasters that talk about aliens, and then there'll be a guy who gets really famous and popular and ingratiated, welcomed into the inner circle, and all of a sudden they'll stop making anti-NASA rhetoric, right? All of a sudden they start apologizing for saying bad things about NASA. So to me, that seems kind of suspicious, right? That you would have such an insular signal corps club that will welcome you in as long as you say what they want you to say. I remember QAnon was asked about aliens, and someone said, "Yeah, no, they exist." I kind of tend to take the idea that super intelligences are inevitable in space time, so we're probably interfering or interacting.
As in, even if like we don't discover aliens, we could eventually create an intelligence that could be so advanced it could travel back to our moment in time,
Totally.
space time,
Yeah.
and just be like, yeah, what's up, guys? Yeah, I could see that. And what this all made me realize, like the petering out of general like hyperbole and all that stuff when it comes to UFO and UAP and disclosure. I think it taught me that what I was always interested in personally was the psychological aspect of it. Like what is it going to do to people on a mass scale once they come to terms with, like, there's like a 95% chance that like aliens are proven to have been in contact with us like this whole time. And I guess I was always interested. I was always drawn to the prospect of a mass ontological shock, and I'm still leaning for it. And it's not like, my friend was like, do you think are you fighting for like a mass spiritual awakening? And I was like, brother, I don't feel like I'm fighting anything. I feel like I'm just leaning on something already about to tip over. I still feel that way, regardless of like government alien disclosure, ontological shock or
Right.
not. Yeah, I still feel like people are all having like more like a more accelerated rate of like dark nights of the soul and everything.
Have you ever? So I brought this up the other day to somebody. They were talking about artificial intelligence, and they're like, "I'm against artificial intelligence," and they meant it for the sake of saying like they went to school, learned a lot, and that they they should be valued for what they know. And I'm like, well, but what do you mean by artificial intelligence? And you've heard me say this. I think education is a form of artificial intelligence, because talk to an African guy in the bush, and talk to like some Marxist college girl who thinks she's a guy, and they're different. You can tell the natural, it's not the same. It's not natural information that the college kid has. They've learned some artificial ways of thinking, which, if you follow the rhetoric, will lead to thoughts that you would not naturally have, right? So we have to also think that every generation, the kids these days, they just don't understand. It's because the old people are learning an old way of thinking while simultaneously they're living their lie. Children are being taught on cartoons for 3-year-olds that the moon landing was faked. And then by the time they're grown up, the new lie will be lived, while the next generation of kids are going to hear even more about the truth in some weird way, right? I think that's the thing.
I have a rebuttal for that, though. I have a counterpoint. I think you're right. For the most part, yes, 100%. Like 95% of the people throughout each generational transition from on to the next, from one to the next. I do think, yeah, like most of the cultural artifacts and traditions and patterns and like modes of being, yeah, they do die out. But I do think like there is a minority in every single generation that successfully synthesizes the necessary components from the past generation. Whether it's like the kids in the generation that remember how to write cursive, remember how to work on a fucking a naturally aspirated engine, or like kids who know how to, I don't know, like do their taxes, like kids who would know how to like appeal to the IRS if they had to, kids who know how to like, for some reason they just know how to like grow food, or they just know how to like, like all like basically just practical skills. And these carry over through time and they synthesize and become new skills. And I don't think that's everyone, for sure. Like I think you're right for the most part. Like I do think like every generation lives in this new framework. Like they adopt a new kind of like operating system, for like how they interact with the matter surrounding them. But yeah, I do think like, I mean, look at me, like I'm just some fucking idiot, but at the same time, like I somehow discovered like a method of like swordsmanship that just somehow survived.
Ancient.
Yeah. And it's not just that, but I feel like I have a real tendency to be drawn to that. Like, for example, like writing in cursive. I don't know, it's bullshit to skill, but I'm just drawn to it. Like I like that shit. Or I've
been writing in cursive a lot recently, randomly. I'm like, all right, we're going here.
And somehow it could be, sometimes it could be alienating, where you're like, I reject the new slang. Like I reject the new weird terminology that you kids are coming up with. It's like, no, I don't want to be rizzed. I don't want to razz anybody.
I wonder how many rappers write in cursive. Like, did Tupac use cursive? Like, I wonder which rappers use cursive.
Well, any rapper with like a Christian or Catholic school education can definitely write in cursive. It's always those people. Like, like Catholics are definitely like well versed in like those old school ass skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like
Yeah, they
when
made me do it.
yeah, my modern brain is thinking when it comes to accounting, it's like, oh, I'll just feed the machine all my expenses and it'll just automatically like give me like a balance sheet. Whereas like, you know, when I was in elementary school, I remember like when the school accountant was doing the accounting, they were like using like an old school calculator and they were just typing on it mad fast. Like I was like, damn, that's a kind of like you ever heard of shorthand writing?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My great aunt did shorthand for the courts in
Yeah.
California, Napa.
You know, I have a
Crazy.
theory. I have a theory, and I don't. Anyone could confirm it or not, or debunk it. But I think that like shorthand is connected to like old school intelligence practices. You know how like the differences between like human, rumant, SIGINT. You know, like human intelligence, signal intelligence, rumor intelligence. Like you know, when it comes to that, like those clerical skills, like writing in shorthand and writing in code in shorthand, can really help you. Like, yeah, this shit is this. I mean. I remember
Clearly comes from when humans were computers, when computers used to be guys on boats, right?
Yeah, I remember hearing stories. It's like where it's like my husband hired this secretary, and I thought he was wasting his money because she just seemed to be scribbling on a notepad all day. But yeah, she was writing in shorthand, and you know that's.
Can you imagine? Yeah,
that's what piqued my interest. I was like, wow, that's weird. It's like Egyptian hieroglyphics, but you know, like,
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's really fascinating that people this is a sort of lost skill that only some people in the courts still remember, and even they are starting to forget it because you know there's no reason for it if computers can pick up everything. But yeah, shorthand's fascinating. I think everyone should learn shorthand. I think it's also useful. Everyone should learn hieroglyphs.
Yeah, you should learn shorthand. You should learn Morse code. You should learn binary. You should learn all this shit. You know, like for sure.
God, that looks like that. I mean, that's the kind of penmanship. Everyone should write in shorthand, and then their teachers should be fired for not knowing what they're saying and thinking it's all scribbles, basically.
I mean, come on, like it's not impossible to raise the standard for teachers. I mean, look, I'm a layman, and if I could remember things like shorthand and you know and understand what it means to like communicate in Morse code or like transpose things into binary, then surely you could raise the stakes for teachers and be like, you learn this shit, you know, like I'm sure it's not that hard. But then I don't know. What do I know?
I mean, there's specific sounds that make combinations together. And so it's very similar in a way to Mayan calligraphy, which I find interesting.
Like
that's
phonetics.
Yeah. I mean, it's phonetics, but it's also symbolic because there's only so many things something can be. So here you can see the same like lobby, loyalty, locate, and they're rather similar. Locality, locate, location, lock, locker versus lock. I mean, it's interesting to me how this, I guess, it says it's Punjabi shorthand. Yeah. I don't know how different that is.
Every language must have their own like shorthand. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, fair. I mean, have you seen Russian cursive?
No. Cyrillic?
Oh, dude, Russian cursive is freaking nuts. Let me show you an example of Russian.
Oh, that's funny. The one that just looks like wave, like just a bunch of U's.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically it looks like a seismograph during an earthquake. Like the lines are so. Look at this. This is freaking nuts.
You saying the Russians got some chicken scratch?
Bro, this is crazy. This is a crazy, like, what am I even seeing right now? I can't even, those are words, bro. This is literally words.
We gotta learn this. We must learn Cyrillic cursive.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite things to look at, but I'm just kind of always like confused by it. Like here's an example where it's a little bit higher resolution. You can kind of see the quality there. But I mean, whoa. I mean, first off, they have really long Greek origined words, you know. Second off, a lot of just like ups and downs and lines. Just I don't know.
It just honestly, it just it just looks like scribbles.
Yeah, it's like, can you imagine like some like people like they drink so much? Dostoevsky would drink coffee and write 400 pages of this. You know, that's what's crazy to me.
But you know what I like about this? Honestly, I still like it. I like looking at it because
it's beautiful.
In fact, the only reason why I'm even interested, and probably what you know, a lot of like why I'm interested in words is because I was into graffiti as a teenager. I don't know how I got into it. It was just purely by accident. I guess.
How is this the same as what is happening with this? Right now? Sorry. Like, I mean, what? They're all the same except for the very end. They're like, and V. You know? Okay. I'm sorry. So yeah, you were saying, why did you get into cursive? What were you saying?
Because
I just got
graffiti.
it overwhelmed.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
I know. I was into cursive. I was taught cursive before.
You're into calligraphy because of graffiti.
Well, I guess I'm just into, yeah. I mean, all right. So what I really like is the format, right? It's kind of like making comics. So first you have to make your outline, which is like the solid color. So like you make your name in big white bubble letters, and then you fill it in with like some big spray, like wide spray pattern nozzle. And then you take a narrower tip and then you trace over your outline, and that's called a fill-in. And then, you know, you have like, if it's just a scribble, like
got felons making fill-ins, right?
Yeah. So if you have like a one-liner scribble, that's called your hand style. That's like your signature as a graffiti writer. And then, you know, it moves on to more complicated pieces like burners. And there's other like lingo, like if you go over someone, especially you don't like, you call it like you're buffing them, and you're basically like slapping them in the face. It's like, this is what I think of your artwork. I'm going to disrespect you directly and obviously.
Is this the documentary? There was a great documentary.
I could point you to, I could point you to some good documentaries for this shit.
There was a great one from the 80s I was trying to find. I remember seeing, is it Style Wars or is it Style Wars? Have you seen Style Wars? That's the one. I love this movie.
It's good. Yo, look up, you could even YouTube this. Look up State Your Name.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Let's put this in here.
Although I just want to say, like, I think graffiti is morally repugnant. You know, like, I think it's definitely like you got to be an insecure person to go and write.
That depends, you know, context. So the word graffiti is Italian word, right? And it comes from Rome.
Specifically in the context of being a street artist. But if you're like a gangster or like a revolutionary, then yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, even just like if you live in a place that people aren't painting the walls, you got to do it yourself. You know?
Okay,
and
that's fair enough. That's a good argument. I like that.
I think that a lot of the time, graffiti that I see that I love the most, it's in a place that looks like a hellscape that's been abandoned by the elite who are just
like
preying and exploiting. Yeah, like Harlem in the 80s, right? It's just the amount of lack of care and the amount of selfishness of the elite led to the worst of conditions. And out of graffiti, and so there's a difference in 20th century American graffiti from the old days, because, you know, let's look at Jesus graffiti ancient. So if you look at like ancient graffiti, this is one of my favorite, is the Alexamenos graffiti picture right here. So this is an ancient piece of graffiti here. It's like, here's what the Christians worship. These crazy Christians, they worship this guy who came into town.
Yeah. That's like a ancient version of Jesus Saves.
Yeah.
Jesus kind of, yeah.
Jesus came in on a donkey. He came in as a donkey, right? So he's got a donkey head, right?
Andre the Posse, Andre the Giant has a posse type stuff.
And it's not very well written.
Yeah, how do you feel about? Have you ever heard of? I'm sure you have. Kilroy Was Here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yo, can we see some clips of State Your Name though? I want to see some fill-ins in action.
Yeah, hold on. Should I get some audio here? Let me get a little bit of audio for that. I don't know if we'll get in trouble, but
the music is it's all right.
Yo, this is Cope too, man.
This guy was in Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, man, all right, Cess.
All right, risk 9 SSC.
NOV, baby, no York. Get it right. Yes, that's one.
They're all degenerates.
Oh my God.
They're all drug
yeah.
addicts. Oh, wait, right there. Here.
I knew some pretty great graffiti artists growing up, and at one point the guy got arrested. They're like, "Hey, is this your work from 10 years ago? Is this your work from 7 years ago? Is this your work from 5 years ago? Is this your work from 3 years ago?"
They
all right, here's a binder on you, and we're gonna take you down. You owe the city $30 million. You know, something.
Yeah,
like
I mean, the book on it must be super simple. It's just like trying to follow like a drug dealer or fucking like arms dealer or a gangbanger. You just build a case against them. For graffiti writers, it's very easy because like they literally just write, you know, like, you know, it's them because they write their shit on. All you got to do is just paste their actual name.
It used to be different though. So it's like you saw the Roman graffiti, and then in America you had barn advertisers. And so barn advertisers would say, look, you got a barn. There's a highway next to your barn. We want people to see our advertisement. You need your barn to not fall apart. We'll make a deal. We'll paint your barn for free, and we'll give you a couple $100 even. We'll pay you to paint your barn. Just let us put male pouch chew tobacco on your barn. And this became the most famous thing. This is how farmers, after the crash of 29, were able to stay afloat, is that they could like get their barn painted and feed their family with the advertisement. And people used to get used to this idea.
And this also shout out to Ohio real quick, the best fucking state in America right now. God damn it, you guys are fucking killing it. All you Ohio listeners, keep up the good work.
I do have a lot of friends in Ohio. What is Ohio doing that's so good? Or are you kidding?
I have no idea. I just know everyone who's been to Ohio tell me it's fucking beautiful. The rent is super affordable. It's like,
sure.
Yeah. Like there's so many.
It sucks that like 80% of Ohio died of fentanyl poisoning in the last 40 years or 20 years.
I mean, maybe that's like what it takes, you know? Like I don't know.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. I also real quick, like because it's just the two of us, I feel like I can finally do this. But shout out to the chat. You know, I've always wanted to like address the chat more, but when there's like 7 people, it's like it's hard. But yeah, shout out to everyone. You guys.
Yeah, this isn't AMA. He's asking me questions, but you guys can ask questions too. I haven't seen too many. I might have missed a few. I know I answered Krigler's. When we love that Krigler was here. We're gonna do a show with him soon. I think it's Monday. We have Base AF again.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you got any more.
It's super funny when we're on a panel with like someone who's like on a phone, like they can't see the chat, and then and then I'm like watching people's reactions, and it's like, oh man, this is I mean, sometimes it makes you feel insecure, like maybe I just shouldn't say anything, but you can't do that. Like you just gotta say fuck it, and, you know, just let people shit on you.
Oh my god, I mean, you always have to expect a few, and the more people that watch, the more you should expect it.
I mean, that's what it is. Like especially when people are just like, you know, when they want to drone on, like when they just want to keep going on and on, I'm like, fuck it, free content, you know, like I guess like that's thinking like a content creator where you're just like, we could always circle back, you know, keep going, you know, like
yeah, it keeps you alive, you know, it just keeps you going. So point is, barn advertisements I think led to American graffiti, because American graffiti allowed for, you know, you're in your neighborhood, you're watching your city get dilapidated, you're going to paint things on it, and yeah, you put your brand. Right. That became the thing, is you're putting your brand up. So I think a lot of it comes out of corporate advertisement, which is unusual historically. That's not, you know, it's not that the lowest common denominator is so swayed by the media. In the past, it's the intellectuals who were swayed by the intelligentsia.
So basically, basically you're saying graffiti writers are renegade sign makers. And I have a lot of respect for sign makers. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to paint like by hand with a brush to paint like a perfect in cursive like welcome sign on a slab of like, you know, perfectly carved.
And maybe I think just to also push the point that it's graffiti. It's not like, you know, I think that there's a serious problem with racism in America. I know it's like it's whatever, but it is. No, people will say, they're like, oh well, black people do this, so I don't like rap music because black people do it. I think that's honestly what happened to graffiti. Because graffiti is an Italian art originally, a Roman art. Croatians do graffiti too. It's something that is you're in your community and there's commons and you share the commons. But people ended up saying, oh, well, you know, we don't like black people and we don't like their culture and we don't like what they're doing. And so I think that's a bigger reason why people hate graffiti so much. To me, the bigger issue is that the people who hate graffiti so much are the established fascists that have been oppressing the inner city kids in the first place. And it's like, if I have to pick a side, you know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're 100% right, and I agree with you. Like, especially when times are really bad, you need you need those douchebag kids to like write revolutionary slogans on the wall. Like, I get it. However, once as like a private property owner, you've had like your shit vandalized by some fucking dickheaded kid, then you just completely do a 180 and you're like, why would you do this? Like, why would anybody write on my shit that I painstakingly maintained and kept clean? That's what really turned me off of graffiti. However,
what's Ishkan got to say? You're saying, nope, I'm wrong. I want to hear your opinion or explanation. What I'm missing here. Explain to me what I'm wrong about, what I'm missing. I'm happy to hear it. I think it might have been what Chris just said. You know, wait, in Rome, in Paris, what are you trying to say? You're saying that the French invented graffiti, or what do you mean by that? Elaborate what you're trying to say. Maybe that's. Croatians definitely had graffiti.
I mean, but until then, I will say
Turks had graffiti, you know.
I will say though, there is, even graffiti writers say this, probably has some kind of bullshit justification, but yeah, there is a human instinct to leave your mark. Like whether it means like just carving something into a tree trunk, which I don't know if that really hurts the tree.
Well,
but
you
what
want
I
to
do
you want to impress people with something that's unique. Like go to a place that's been completely covered in graffiti and paint it white or red, or like if this is the point. Like if it were clean, it'd be weirder. But the thing is, things are so dilapidated. That's where graffiti belongs. And with graffiti, people will paint their logo over the other person's logo. Gangs will represent this area somewhere else. I think that at a certain point, the entire place, when I was in Dresden's covered in graffiti, especially in the Neustadt, the new area of town, the rebuilt area of town. Every kid's an Antifa in a basement, and they're painting graffiti everywhere. So what you need is you go into a place like that, and everywhere you go, it all looks the same because it's just covered in scribbles. If you painted one wall red or white or whatever, just a clean wall, that would be your brand. You're saying we have a clean area, a clean city. I think that's the thing that's coming, is that dirty places will be painted clean, and clean places, well, if they're not really well taken care of, people do some graffiti.
Yeah,
it's
interesting
to be maintained.
That's interesting you say that, because there was a documentary called Infamous about graffiti, and like one of the features in that documentary was this neighborhood watch member, and he would just he would paint over graffiti, like clean it up. His job was cleaning up the streets, and like he would always do in a slightly over painted darker shade, AMB, and it stands for all my bitches. And he's like, you're still doing graffiti despite the fact that you're cleaning up the graffiti. It's like,
right, yeah. Although it's like I would think a community mural. That I can see. I've been in a lot of places in the broad daylight, and someone's painting, and I'm like, what's going on? And it looks like graffiti, and they're like, no, they paid me to put up a mural. So people do this as well. Graffiti art style has become mural. I just want to understand Ishkan, because Ishkan's telling me, nope. In Rome, Paris, not when I was there. Sorry, not true. Not when you were where. Use full and complete sentences. I'm confused which place you're talking about. And then not true. Which part is not true? Elaborate, Ishkan. Make it clear what I just want to understand.
Yeah, usually you get like expositions like, actually, graffiti was invented in the year 1600 BC.
Yeah, so it had no BS graffiti. Your CIA parents took you to nice. Where are you talking about? Explain to me what is going on. I just want to understand.
Actually, you know what, Andreas, though, that would be funny if you are like actually a Fed and you're just like cultivating your own. You're cultivating your own web.
I was raised in it. I was born in it. Yeah.
I mean, that would be cool. I mean, it is what it is. Like, there's always like spooks out there where you.
Dresden didn't used to have graffiti like today. That's true. Yeah, it's the Western Germans made that.
Here's the real question: like, do we think graffiti is a force of good, or graffiti is a force of I think it's a force of good and bad. I think it could be used as a force of good or bad. Because it's not just artists that do graffiti; it's also like gangbangers to mark their territory and whatnot. And also like going back to like how it's like the human instinct to leave a mark. Like there's all that stuff about and like how like you shouldn't stack rocks. It's bad for nature. I don't know how true. I'm not a nature expert. Like I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I like that people put art on the walls, and I like that there's rocks stacked. I think it's fun when you go to like nature and someone's got a bunch of big piles of rocks. But maybe it's terrible. I don't know.
Honestly,
do you sense a? Go ahead. I'll read his question after you finish.
No, I was just going to say, like, graffiti just reminds me of a lot of what we do on the internet. Like leaving memes everywhere, leaving statuses, leaving tweets. It's basically just like kind of like spray painting your shit on the digital wall, except all that energy of vandalism is transferred onto like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just a slightly different nature, but it's essentially the same thing. But what was the question?
Well, first off, Ishkan says it looks like trash on ancient structures. I think looking at paint on buildings, like you could say, like in Austria, they paint like the lines and the art everywhere. They put the lines and the art everywhere to make it look more like beautiful. Here's an example. Let's say like St. Petersburg. Here we go. Like, so here, for instance, if you look at like this building, they paint like the way you'd paint the inside or the outside of a building. Okay. And like, if this was just a gray building, it wouldn't look as good. Right. And so they paint it. It's the same thing here. You got like metals and everything. You have beautiful colors everywhere. And if that's not maintained and taken care of and it starts to dilapidate, well, it looks bad. Right. So people start to paint, I think, places that aren't being taken care of. And the inevitable goal should be some sort of a planned color scheme art. I think this is I think we agree this is better than just, a picture that says somebody's name graffitied in a dark alley. But I still think if this was like dystopic, Soviet, dilapidated, let's go ahead and see. If you had a building that looked like this, if you lived in Harlem and it looked like this, let's look at Harlem 1979, 79. Like if you lived here, right? And no one's painting your buildings, really? Like, are you going to tell me it looks like trash on trash, bro? I don't know. This is a difference. That's not a tag. Okay.
I think there's one element of graffiti that sets it apart from just like regular, just street art, for example, or art in general. It's almost required that it's codified in some way. There has to be like some encryption process. Like, for example, when people are tagging their graffiti name, they don't tag their actual name. They use their tag name. Or when, no one actually writes what they're actually thinking, like a full sentence, a literal sentence. They write it in a way that, like that's unique to them. And that has like kind of like a call sign to it. So it's like, I think graffiti has to have some kind of like codification process,
Yeah. And I mean, like it is art. Like, it's not all graffiti is the same. And okay, it's all pissing. I guess I just don't know what I'm saying. But like, I look at some of this stuff and I think I like it. These are my feelings. Okay. I mean, this is a kind of art that, and the other thing is you go into a film theater, a tiny little dark room to watch a movie. Everyone wants to see that movie. You go into an art gallery. Everyone wants to see that art. This is an opportunity for everyone to be exposed to different kinds of art as well.
Also, for the record, like, like having
I want you to be exposed, Ishkan. I want you to be forced to look at this art.
I know. I just want to say, like, looking at the art, being exposed to it and being forced to have an opinion on it is one thing, but going out and actually doing it is like completely different. Like, people would like trash on like, some of the shitty looking stuff, but I'm like, some of it's placed in such a fucked up like location where I'm like, you had to like really climb some stuff just to like scribble that bullshit over there. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it doesn't look like anything. However, like the fact that
it's impressive you got up there,
yeah. So that's cool. Like it's basically like climbing Mount Everest and putting your flag up there. You're
okay,
like, hey.
Here's exactly my point. Ishkan finds it offensive, and that's exactly why I think it should be everywhere. Not because I hate you, but I love you. I want you to be offended. I don't want you to be comfortable and like in your lane. I don't want you to be able to avoid seeing the world. That's not my job. I think you should be forced to a certain extent to endure other people's self-determination, not the other way around. You shouldn't be able to suppress that stuff, right? If you don't like my art, don't push it. If you don't like my art, don't puss on it. I don't know what that means. I'm saying I like your art or don't piss on it. Okay. Hey, yeah. I mean, you can piss on the art all you want. I don't know if that's what you're saying. Like this is public spaces and people that live in the community are putting up art that represents them. And granted, I hate how ugly a lot of graffiti is too, but you can go put your own graffiti up over that graffiti.
Well, the fucked up part is we're talking to an artist. So it's like, if I say this, he's just gonna be like, he's just a scoff. But the truth is, like, honestly, art doesn't have to like make you feel good all the time. If anything, good art, quote unquote, good art just makes you feel something. And if you hate it, I'd say it did its job in a way, right? Like if you have an opinion on it, it probably did a job. The worst art is probably something you just look at and you be like, okay. And then you just don't think about it ever again. Like if you truly hate something, then by God, like shit, it made you feel something.
Also, like art can represent a place and a time so well, because I can go to a place and look at the art, and when I leave and come back 10 or 15 years later, I can see that mural's been changed with another mural, and that is a representation of the zeitgeist, right? Whether the art, the way the art was in the 80s is not the way the art is in the 2020s.
I mean, however, I will say one thing though, graffiti is also like really fucking uncivilized, especially on the street level. Like when you're an artist, like you shouldn't have to, if you're just trying to be creative, you shouldn't have to expect getting beaten by cops. You shouldn't have to expect dealing with drug addicts. You shouldn't have to deal with gangsters coming up to you and like fucking with you. You shouldn't have to deal with like, You know,
Although, isn't that a good sign that you're doing the right thing? Like, if your art is something that could get you killed or oppressed, I'm serious. Does that mean that might be a false positive for meaning in an artist's life? You know?
you know, that's a good point. But I mean, I don't think art has to necessarily be the rawest, most hardcore thing to be art either. You know, sometimes,
Sure.
you know, I'm into some of this stuff that the cottagecore bitches are into. You know, they just want to like bake cookies and knit all day and just
Yeah.
embroidery work. Some of it's good. I'm like, yeah, you know, this brings me joy.
It's also, I think, spray paint cans are expensive. Old world micmacs, right? There's something, you know, kind of, it's hard for people to get into that field of art.
You know,
I think,
you know,
unless
be
they can afford
fucked
it.
up. Like it would be super fucked up if you were like the kind of graffiti artist that didn't use spray paint, but you made like oil masterpieces on legit walls, like illegally, and they were just beautiful and probably worth a lot of money if it was on canvas. And you just walked away. And like the next day, people were like, "Oh shit, the fucking renegade oil painter did it again," and it's just gonna wash away in the rain unless we preserve it somehow. And you just cause a whole bunch of like trouble. What do you
Well,
call
there's
this style, by the way, with these like weird colored stick figures?
The doodle art. The guy who, what's the name of the guy who did this? Keith, right? Keith Haring. Famous Keith Haring style. That's the best way to put it.
Okay.
He did all these. I had some T-shirts from him in the '90s. I remember my parents got us these T-shirts that the dude made. Keith Haring art style, advocate for safe sex and anti-AIDS and AIDS awareness and all that. Yeah, I like it. I actually like the Keith style of art, and you can do this with the big fat pen, the same pen that Trump signs all of the executive orders with. That's the kind of pen that this guy uses for his art style. Pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, like, I think it's important because graffiti displaces social norms. If somebody says this is the style of art you need to make to get paid or to be socially acceptable, graffiti is the alternative argument against that. And there's so many different kinds of art that can emerge because you can very rapidly create new styles and see new it's a way of rapid acceleration of culture and art. And that's something, you know, yeah, because if you go to art school and they're like, you can't do graffiti, don't go to art school for graffiti. You need to learn how to paint like other people painted. Right. And this is the same thing. We train people to
there's
become
graffiti writers from like the 70s or 80s doing fucking master classes online right now.
True.
You know? Yeah, selling it, making a lot of fucking dough.
True. Yeah.
I mean, also, like, I used to have this weird relationship with art, you know, like for the longest time, I couldn't even like discern what an artist really was. But now it's like I've reached this point where it's like there's no distinction, you know, like if you're a human being, you are essentially an artist until the day you fucking die, you know, whether you get yourself killed, whether you kill yourself, or whether you die of, you know, as an old person. Like if you're a human being, you're a fucking artist. Like you have no choice but to work with like your space-time materia that you're born into and to create a life that brings you joy and hopefully brings other people joy. You are an artist just by default of being a fucking soul placed in this meat sack, you know, just that's basically built to create art. Whether your art is like just notarizing contracts, all like confessions of judgment all day, or whether your art is like pumping gas, or whether your art is creating like amazing food, like whatever, you know, if you're a human being, you're a fucking artist. And that's good and bad. It's good because great, everyone's an artist. It's bad because all right, great, you're an artist, big whoop, you know. Like
Ronaldo says, Andreas, do you speak Croatian? Da, ponekad. And why? Why do you speak Croatian? Or why don't you, or do you? Well, okay, I can speak some Croatian, but I can't speak perfect Croatian enough, I would say. But my family are Croatian, my dad's family, and I go to Croatia sometimes. So you speak Serbian. Totally different. Same language. Just saying.
the only second language I've come close to speaking is Korean. I'm getting close to like really fluent. It's because like
Oran agi.
I don't like that stuff. I don't like Korean. I don't like modern Korean music. I like Korean folk music. You know, that
For
shit,
sure.
That shit is fucking sick.
Fire.
Only because like they play guitar really good. You know, like I love that. I love that like the old school pop artists of Korea played guitar really good. It's just I respect it. You know, I'm like as a less than amateur guitarist myself, I just want to say like those guys could fucking shred if they wanted to. You know, like they just know how to write songs. They just know how to put it together.
I wanted to find the page on this. The suicide rates in South Korea are like 8 times higher than North Korea. And it's the same thing with a lot of these, the communist countries have lower suicide rates than, for instance, Hong Kong has a higher suicide rate than the rest of PRC China. Not to say that that's a perfect example because it's a smaller place and it's a higher cost. But it's interesting because a lot of the idea of Korean culture has been accelerationist into American culture, and you've got one of the most tragic birth rates in the world, and North Korea is way cooler.
That language they're all speaking is also like a fairly modern language. Like that hasn't been around that long. And I also want to say, like, out of all the Asian languages, Korean is probably like the easiest to fucking learn because you have a basic alphabet, you have vowels and you have consonants, and you put them together, and you create you basically create a syntax that way, and it's really simple to learn if you know English. Now, like the thing that makes it hard for me, especially, it's the numbers, because like the way they express time, how like we count differently, like we'll say 1, 2, 3, then first, second, third. Like they would use different sets for the hours and different sets for the minutes.
Really?
And it's also, it affects like how you count money, and stuff like that is a little nuanced. And also what could be hard for the average person is like honorifics, like if the way you speak to an older person / younger person is like different. So Newcomb's
like, I was actually born in Croatia. We have a love-hate relationship. This is the true thing. I've gotten over it over the years, but on principle, you'll meet a Serbian if you're Croatian and just be like, I guess we have to kill each other. Is that the deal? And then within 30, 40 seconds to 5 minutes, you're like hugging and kissing each other on the cheek, right in the beard, bro. Right in the beard. So I don't know what it is about that, but we're all the same people, whether we want to pretend or not. I don't know. Koreans, do you have any idea why that they use different sets for numbers for minutes versus?
No, I mean, it's probably just like at the time, like there was this one guy, I forgot his name, but he came up in the Korean lessons. He was like, he managed to create this like very standardized Korean contemporary language alphabet form of writing, and that's what everyone's just been using. And so this makes me feel like Korea is not a real country; that it's an artificial country. Like some forces in the world.
North Korea is real though.
I mean, the whole continent they took Jocheon or whatever the fuck it was called. I should know this, but they took Jocheon and they turned it into this like capitalist experiment of Asia, of East Asia. And now they're just like full of these like semi-android people, me being, present company included, like shit.
The Chosun one. Yeah. The Chosun one.
The chosen ones.
Dynasty, Kingdom of Korea that existed for 505 years. It was founded by Taizhou Joseon in July 1392 and replaced by the Korean Empire in 1897.
You know what Koreans are? Koreans are like human dolphins. They look pretty, they're cute, they're friendly, but deep down they engage in like inhumane shit,
weird stuff.
Like weird stuff. Like they're super smart. They're like the people of the sea, but
smart people are perverts. I think I've noticed. Yeah, it could be something to that. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. For the most part, though, it seems also like you ever eat Korean food and you realize like Koreans have been through a lot and they've learned how to survive. They're like throw an egg on it.
It's like, what is this dish? Oh, this is like pure duck shit, but we managed to like purify it in a way where it's like pure protein. It makes your dick bigger, like they'll just eat it up. They're like,
how did you find that out? Like, we didn't want to find that out. We had to find that out. That was But I mean,
I
also,
swear to God, I swear to God, if you go to a Korean, like a classic Korean restaurant, if you look on the menu, they should have something called Korean army stew. And it's got like ingredients like beef strips and like Spam. And apparently traditionally it was made from ingredients you were able to steal from like an American military base.
Of course, that makes sense. Well, this is not the right page. Hold on.
Yeah, very hearty.
Korean stew, Budai Jjigae.
It's a real, they got cheese on it and everything.
Anything you can find, you just throw it in there.
Yeah. Spam,
hot dogs, some hot dogs, some Spam, some anything you can find at all. Anything, just
rice
throw it
cakes,
all in there.
Ramen, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's funny because on one hand you'd be like, this is hedonism, but on the other hand you're like, this is the result of starvation. This is somebody who's been through so much. They're like, anything I can get.
But they conquered it. They
yeah. You have restaurants now where you can buy army stew. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because like a lot of people like to hype up Korean barbecue, and I'm like, you guys realize this is peasant food, right? Like this is this is some poor people shit. Like if there's a reason why Koreans rip off of Europeans, like all the expensive Korean food is always some form of like Italian, like bastardized Italian food, like northern Italian food or some shit. Koreans love their pasta. Yo, their subways are like super, like their subways aren't just like $5 footlong type deals. Like they have some fancy subways out there.
Really? What kind of Korean subway? I mean,
look at
now
how
I'm
Korean
curious.
subway.
I'm
like
doing it.
like unfortunately, Jared ruined Subway for America, but in Korea, like that didn't.
Jared turned it into pedophile food. When I think of 6-inch Subway sandwiches, when I think of footlongs, I think of Jared now in a weird way. Well, okay, what's a good Korean sandwich? Egg mayo, Korean
look at this
barbecue
shit.
pork.
There's a lot of what's that Subway Korean pepperoni pizza sub? What the fuck?
There's probably some pretty good stuff going on. All right, I can see that. I hate this though. I hate like the American corporation coming over to another country and doing food right.
We got
because they never do food. They never do food right in America. Then they go to another country. And you're like, wow, KFC's so good at Christmas in Japan.
Yo, if that makes you upset, you will not want to hear about fucking 7-Eleven in Japan.
Oh God, yeah, no, that's the thing. 7-Eleven in Japan is like a micro Target. You go in there and you go upstairs. Once you get upstairs, it's like they're selling PlayStations and jeans.
Like, yo, we got katanas,
it's like next level. Yeah, Japan knows how to do a 7-Eleven. I think we need to actually bring that culture here. I think 7-Eleven should be a micro mall here.
If there was one place I would want to travel with you, well, I got to go to Europe with you, but I would also want to go to like Asia with you. That'd be
I haven't done all of Asia. That's a big thing I need to get done. So yeah, we should definitely
we go to Korea, we go to Japan. That'd be so fucked. It would be fucked up.
We need to go to Vietnam, and I need to ride a motorcycle across Vietnam. So like let's anytime you're free, like do that. Yeah. I hear nothing but good things about the Vietnamese, every time. I mean, okay, that's not completely true. I hear some pretty crazy dark things, but that just makes me want to visit more,
Really? Oh, really? You hear some crazy dark things? You know who I like? I like the Filipinos.
Yeah.
Who are the ones with the Spanish sounding names, but they're all like jungle Asians?
Filipino.
Yeah, I love that because they're super about Jesus and Catholicism.
I remember
it's like, I'm Filipino. My name is Francisco Valentino.
I remember this beautiful girl I met who was Filipino in Denmark, and she was an au pair. So she was like a babysitter, and she invited me through couch surfing. I was like hanging out with her and her friend, and she invited several of their Filipino friends, and they were like expecting just a normal interaction with like a normal woke fluoridated person, and the first thing I'm saying is like, what do you guys think of this Duterte guy? I like him. And they're just like, oh, because everyone's told that their dictator is this evil guy.
Like, oh, you're based in Filipino.
Instantly they're like, you're in. What do you want? Do you want our bodies? Do you want our food? What do you want? It was crazy. And the first thing, then they're like, okay, but we need to really test this guy. He's American. Let's give him by Belat. Have you ever had Belat? Belat Filipino. Let me show you what Filipinos eat, because Filipinos, they do it different. I'll tell you what. Let me see, like the.
If you're gonna show me like cooked lizard, I'll be like pissed. I'll be like,
no, I love cooked lizard. That's not even that's normal.
You know how many videos I watch of like South Asians just cooking cockroaches and delicious spicy dishes? I'm like, what the fuck?
This girl hands me an egg with a chicken that's almost fully developed.
It's a fertilized egg, bro.
Fertilized egg.
She had you eating fertilized eggs, huh?
Totally. And so I take a bite, and my first off, whether it was true or not, if someone feeds you, what do you say?
You say thank you.
You say it's delicious. That's what you do. You say thank you so much. It's delicious. Second thing though, I didn't hate it. I'll be honest. I thought, granted, the feathers and the bone taste a little crunchy or something like that, but I had no problem with this. And so the next thing you do, if you really want to try, is you say like Oliver Twist, please, sir, I'd like some more.
That
exactly.
You really honestly, dude, that's
then you're in for life, right? Then they're like, okay, he's cool.
Yo, but that's standard like Fed training. It's like when you're in enemy territory and you got to say, it's like, hey, we eat like goat brain, and you got to be like, yo, I love goat brain. Yeah,
but what if you unironically love goat brain? See, like, I'm a big fan of eating goat brain taco. Like I've always been this way.
There is one thing that I thought I would hate that I didn't end up hating. because like I try to
liberal democracies. What?
nah, well it's close, actually very close. I try to eat like relatively not too healthy, but
You're pretty healthy guy.
girl in Canada for a little bit, and that didn't work out. But that's another story. But she was like really into poutine, and as an
I love
American,
Vladimir Putin. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, what the fuck is? And she ate a lot of poutine, and I was like, what the fuck is poutine? And then she just showed me like just this mess of French fries and like fucking gravy and cheese, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like this is like, how often do you eat this? She's like, she
every day.
She looked great too, and that freaked me out. That was another weird thing, and I was like, yeah,
Poutine is just okay. What's gravy? Gravy is boiled down, fatty juices of rendered meat, right? So you're getting.
I mean, I the problem was I ended up hooked on it. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
I love poutine.
No, I love poutine. I love poutine. In Minnesota, they make better poutine than Canadians do because they'll put steak in their poutine, right?
Yeah.
And so if you have pieces of steak and you got some, nice peppers and things like that, you can do amazing things with gravy. All right. You put gravy on anything, I'll be happy with it.
You know what I don't like? I hate when I get gravy from a diner and then it's like some red sauce, some red shit. I'm like, this isn't fucking gravy. And the Italians are like, this is gravy, kid. I'm like,
dude,
right,
it makes me so angry. I hate like the white gravy that doesn't taste like it's made of, boiled down meat. I hate that, like that Costco fake gravy. I like my gravy to be like, I like it when you melt down. Like I like to put a whole turkey in a pressure cooker. Then you take the turkey out and then you got all the juices, man. And like you can live off of nothing but turkey gravy for like weeks, bro. I mean, I don't know. Gravy's cool. Poutine's cool.
Dude, turkey's a weird bird to eat. I mean, only because like I look at these because I'm around like wild turkeys, like natural wild turkeys.
They're fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
turkeys freak me out. Like the whole thing about killing turkeys and being grateful for it makes perfect sense to me because it's like these are dragons that want to eat you. And like, I mean, one time I was left alone in Peru with a lady's turkey. She's like, this is a lady I knew named Star, who used to be a topless waitress in Florida, and then she moved to Peru because she married some shaman who she called the Sham Man. Then she got stuck down there. She had her hand all like almost destroyed because she was going across a boat with a chimp. And this little monkey like bit her hand and like we wouldn't let go. And she's like swinging it and he's all freaking out and she's trying to drown the monkey. Anyway, she leaves me with this turkey because she's like, I got this turkey. I'm going to raise this turkey. I'm going to have it and we're going to kill this turkey. We're going to have this turkey dinner. And she goes away for a while. And I'm sitting there. And this turkey's getting like, he's looking at me. And then all of a sudden his feathers get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, he can tell I'm a little uncomfortable. And the more uncomfortable I become, the more ready he is to come at me until I feel like I'm gonna have to like freaking get my chair and murder this. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to murder a dragon, and then you celebrate it and you're grateful
and you eat it. Yeah. No, they are some ugly ass birds. No, it's true.
They're terrifying. Yeah.
Although I will say that like every
and the noise they make. Gobbling.
Yeah, no, I mean, birds are a funny thing to eat, to be honest. I mean, compared to like
they're like lizards, right? It is. I think about that too. It's weird because 100 years ago, no one ate chicken except for the extremely elite, wealthy people, and now we have this kind of Holocaust chicken.
The chicken Holocaust.
It's crazy. Have you seen Oakjaw? Have you seen that movie Oakjaw?
Yeah. With the super pig.
Dude, all right. Anybody here who's not Korean and not vegan, you need to watch Oakjaw. It is a life-changing experience. It's probably
anyone with a Netflix subscription, any hardcore Netflixer has watched.
Anybody? I never saw it until like a week ago. I was shocked. This is a movie that somehow I never saw it. It wasn't recommended on my Netflix queue, but it's about genetically modified super pigs and this Korean girl who's got this giant super pig and it gets raped by the corporation that's trying to breed them. I mean, it is a horrifying movie. If you're a vegan, you can't handle it. And if you're not a vegan, you might not eat hamburger for 20 minutes after this film. I don't know. I'm going to make everybody who watches this movie eat like a pork steak right before the film. But basically, incredible movie about the ALF, about ALF, the ALF and the Animal Liberation Front. Dude,
Dino.
Incredible movie. I really highly recommend Oakjaw. But they show this whole like the end of the movie. I don't want to like completely spoil it, but like animals that are being butchered, they go through these meat processing places, and they really kind of show it. And it's like It is an assembly line for death, and they're raising these chickens and melting their beaks off and everything. It's crazy how bird eating is normalized because they are reptiles, and so we're constantly eating reptiles all the time. And I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. Someone had that article recently saying that it's crazy that eggs were ever cheap. Like, how did we ever afford to have these tiny little ovals to begin with?
I think at the end of the day, it's when it comes to like the morality behind like consumption of animal products, it's like, dude, are we at post scarcity yet? Like, can we 3D print every single thing we ever need when it comes to nutrition, structure, or clothing? Like, are we? And I think we're getting close. Maybe we're there. Maybe we're there without even me realizing, you know, like, but I do know, like, when you take away everything, if we were struck with like a solar flare that just wiped out every bit of technology ever, then we're going to have to go back to square one. Like, we're going to have to start back to the basics. We're going to have to like refine like ore. We're going to have to like turn that into fucking like base metals. We're going to have to like be able to like alchemize that back into like other compounds. We're going to have to like relearn how to like make basic shit like soap, you know, like preservatives for food and other chemicals, like all that shit. So we take this for granted, which is why we're even in a position to moralize eating like beef and animals and shit.
Right.
So
I mean, it's crazy that we moralize it at all. I don't know. Have you seen my friend?
That's the goal. I want to say that's the goal. We want that. We want to be eventually at that position where we don't have to like slaughter these beautiful cows. I mean, I'm sorry.
I mean, like,
if you've ever hung out with,
talking about lab meat being grown, isn't that kind of similar to? I mean, we're gonna be growing meat anyway, so yeah.
all I know is I just don't know. I don't know if we're there. I do know it's a possibility, and I think that is the goal, right? We should try to angle for that, but I don't know if we're there yet. Which means like I don't necessarily think people should just go out and eat like artificially grown meat. You know, I'm like,
I think it's a lack of context for a lot of people. So a lot of people think that there should be no death because death is sad. And the problem with that is that you're eating a vegetable covered in you're genociding microbes in your salad, right? There's probably more than 6 million microbes that died out in your salad. So it's a Holocaust. And I think it's important. You got to remember that. You can't
There's a Tool song about this. Yeah. It's like, this is necessary.
It's and date rape, you know, because a lot of time people are like, well, I don't want to hear the animal scream. I just want to eat it after it's dead. Or I want to not eat an animal. I want to eat a salad that can't scream at all. Like I want a carrot that can't even demand defense. You know, a carrot can't scream for help. Right. And so to me, it's crazy. Yeah. Carrot Holocaust. Definitely not Eric Dubay saying. And you might say, okay, well,
he's talking about that Tool song, Disgustipated. For the carrots, it was the Holocaust.
You might say that that's a ridiculous thing to say, but to be honest, it's better logic to understand that death is a part of life. And
I have the solution. The solution is, which I don't know how we're going to get there, but obviously what we have to do is we have to figure out how to do human photosynthesis. We have to figure out how, as humans, we can just stand in the sun, give us some water, and we'll be energized. Because, you know, like it's got to be possible somehow.
Have you ever seen that show Time Tunnel from the 60s?
No.
Austin Powers has that scene where they go through the time tunnel, and it looks like the time tunnel. See, this is the time tunnel that you've seen Austin Powers.
Yes, that is.
You see the reference. Yeah. That's the reference it's coming up with, and the whole point of the show is, well, underground in a U.S. military base with 30,000 people living in a secret city in the desert, the Mojave Desert, they have this super nuclear power city, the Stargate project, where they've been building a time machine, and the budget's really high, and then these guys go get lost in time. At one point, they talk to people from the future, because most of the show, it's about the past, right? And they're like on the Titanic, and they're fixing stuff.
Yes.
But the ones where they're at the future, they see people, by the way, the guy in charge of this is called TikTok. Anybody who likes QAnon should know that. Okay. Future. I want to see if I can find the photos of the aliens in space. They have gold and silver people from the future in the time tunnel that
they could do photosynthesis.
Yeah, and it's all genetically modified people that live in some sort of an insectoid future hive. And it's interesting because I remember watching it as a kid and thinking this is really cheesy and poorly done. But if you were to just read the script, it's exactly the Gaia insectoid alien future. Aliens are time travelers from the past who went to the future, who genetically modified themselves to have photosynthesis.
Because this goes back this goes back to the star seed branding thing with like the different and me and Andrew Vega, you know, he's like a South Asian dude, and we were like talking about this, and I was worried. I was like, what if, like, you know, just by being Asian, I'm like, you know, part like reptilian, you know, like part dragon or whatever. And he was like, don't worry, us Asians, we're insectoids, we're bugs.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot about the insectoids. The white people are reptilians, the black people are like apes or whatever, more of their primate things. And I was like, I'm surprised that this didn't pop up sooner, like the racism in starseed.
It's a dog whistle waiting to happen. I don't know, but I think a lot of the time with these Men in Black, the Men in Black movie, they have a scene in Men in Black 2 where he's watching a video on the TV that's a cheesy 1970s, you know, this is what really happened that day, but it's poorly filmed dramatization. That's what Time Tunnel feels like. It feels like it's about something very real, about time traveling future insectoids. And yeah, there's something about, I don't know if to say it's a blood thing with Asians, but you got to think about the idea of Shintoism and ancestor worship. And I think that's a very different mentality than you have in the West, right?
Absolutely.
It's completely absent.
It's more mechanical. It's a more mechanical way to integrate with reality, you know, like, because they're more about like that's why they call it a hive mind. My friend actually made a really funny tweet. He was like, Elon Musk is sucking up to the CCCP because he knows if you plug one Chinese man with Neuralink, he's going to have access to the entire hive mind.
The rest of them, yeah, it's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up eating dogs to shout out to Lance, a good friend of mine, a Canadian. And, you know, whenever anyone talks about people eating dogs, I have to tell this story because Lance was living in China and he would just constantly so excited. He loved it. He thought it was the greatest place. He was disappointed he couldn't find dog because he'd heard all these stories and he wanted to eat dog. And he's like, why is it so hard to get to the dog? And finally he found a guy. He found a place. Like,
I found a guy. Here's
dog flavor ramen. So if you ever want to have
star anise on the fucking it's like, look how flavorful our dog meat.
Look how it tastes like wet dog in the rain, but with a little bit of cinnamon. Yeah, it's and this is the dog. He sent me this picture. He's like, this is the dog they're gonna cook for me. I got to meet him. It was like a lobster. And that was, I mean, okay. Some people say they couldn't. I mean, I don't know. I easily could. I'll be honest with you right now. If I was going to eat something different, it wouldn't shock me. Could be brain, could be lobster, could be a living bug, could be, you know, I would eat a lot of things without being like, ew. A dog is one of them. I'm sorry.
Dog?
But but it's a seasonal thing also. So this is the other thing with dogs. It's like I lived in a lot of places, right? And a lot of these places don't have pounds. They have wild dogs. You go to Argentina, there's just dogs in the street everywhere, and they're super smart. They stop at crosswalks. If you get drunk, they'll walk you home. They know where you live. They don't stay because they're busy. They have things to do, but they'll come back and check on you in a week. The dogs are smart. But at a certain point, the dogs get a little, something happens and they die. You know, you don't see a lot of old street dogs. For the most part, something happens to them. It's survival of the fittest dog eat dog.
It's malnutrition. For example, like you look at a cat in the street, like a wild cat, and you're like, all right, whatever. That was a good movie, by the way. Mel Gibson, shout out. But yeah. If you see a cat in the street, like, oh, look at the kitty, cute. If you see dogs in the street, you're like, what the fuck? You know, like, where's
it's sad.
Yeah.
Dogs are so beautiful. There's something nice about dogs, and you feel bad for them. And it's like, I always feel kind of sad. But then the thing is, I would meet these like Western liberal women who were tourists in South America, and then they would fall in love with a street dog. And then they'd do all the paperwork, get all the shots for the thing to bring it back to America, and the thing would die of the vaccines. Or they'd bring it to Canada, and it would, like, you know, not be really that happy to be in an apartment for the rest of its life. Realistically, it's like they're trapped by a white woman. It's the saddest thing.
I had it so good. I was killing whatever I wanted. I was mauling shit.
Yeah, and it's like in the tropics. You know, you're living in like Argentina or Peru or something like that. It's pretty nice, you know, and like all of a sudden you're in Toronto in an apartment. No offense to all of you in Toronto in apartments, but you know, if you're a street dog, you're probably not going to be into that so much. And so if you imagine these Chinese dogs, like I said, seasonal. So, I mean, not just seasoned. So they take the dog, they raise it right, it has a beautiful life, and then they kill it before it's old enough to be miserable. And so that's
and then you got to marinate it right in a mixture of soy sauce, vinegar,
But
salt.
I feel like we learn a lot from how we would treat each other based on how we treat animals. And so if the Chinese would raise a dog with a quality life just so they could sacrifice it for a meal at the prime time of its life, you know, so like you got a rising action, right? Your life gets better and better and better, and all of a sudden your life starts to peter out and go worse and worse and then stops. Okay. So with this dog, life gets better and better and better, and then all of a sudden it's dead at its peak. That's the way that that it becomes food at its peak. So it never experiences the misery of a normal dog that has to die in suffering. And this is
you don't have to convince me of the ethical implications. Like I get both sides. You know, like
no, but take that to a human place. Like, would you, if it's comfortable enough for you to do that to a dog, can't you imagine doing that to each other? Like, wouldn't it make sense to euthanize people at 35 because life just starts to go downhill from there? That's like where
I'm sure it happens all the time. Like, you know, imagine like being like a drug runner and you get into a car accident and your guy's got a broken leg. You're in the desert. No one's going to be around for miles or days. It's like, I'm not going to make it. Just shoot him in the head. You know, like if he's like seriously injured, just put them out. It's literally putting something out of their misery. Cops have the authority to do the same thing. Like if they come across a dog in the street that got hit by a car and like there's no animal control around to like pick it up, they have the authority to just like take out their gun and shoot it. I mean, what are you going to do? Like make it suffer? If you try to move it, it'll hurt more. Just kill it. You know, like fucking same thing with like if you're a legal gun owner and you hit a deer, I mean, you still got to report it, I'm sure. 100%, you know, like you have to like report that stuff. But, you know, I'm sure like if there's no other option, like the cop will probably just tell you, hey, listen, just fucking put a bullet in his head. Like,
and I think it's because we learn to believe what is misery and what's quality of life. And we, you know, it's funny to me that someone who loses their arms and legs, we're going to put into therapy instead of euthanizing them. And we have to decide as a culture what we justify. In the West, it's different. In China, sure, you might eat a dog, but in the West, you're going to kidnap a dog, force it to live as your slave inside of a house, like some sort of a kidnapped bride of Fritz, you know, have you seen that where they kidnap girls and they put them in their house?
No. See,
that's basically what a dog is. A dog is a kidnapped woman.
That. I used to think like that. I used to just be like, this is unethical. This is like, there's no reason behind this. This is illogical.
If you give a dog a hysterectomy, you're going to hell. I mean, not necessarily.
However,
but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I used to think like that until I realized one thing. Like dogs aren't just like keeping a pet. Like back in like the olden days, like if you were old money, dogs were like an asset. Dogs were part of your estate. Dogs did things. Dogs had a function. Dogs were able to keep your estate safe. Dogs were able to hunt for you. Dogs were able to give you companionship. Dogs were like it's like owning a car, you know, like I think that's what it is, you know, like you don't
horse.
You don't eat dogs because you wouldn't eat your fucking car, you know, you wouldn't eat your horse. Exactly. These things have a utilitarian use. They're part of your estate. They're your property. Like, why are you gonna fucking eat them? You know, they have way better uses. I mean, compared to like cows, which is a way better source of bioavailable, like, you know, protein. Why do dogs? You know, dogs are just way better suited for
dogs live quickly, live young, die fast, you know, live young, die. It's like that. I think also because at a certain point, dogs reproduce rapidly, and so you have if you have an area with a lot of wild dogs. Did you see that movie The Isle of Dogs by Wes Anderson? Did you watch that one?
No. That sounds cool though. That sounds scary. I don't want to be on that island, but it sounds cool.
So it's an interesting movie because it's a Japanese style film, and I think it actually was done by Wes Anderson with Japanese direction for production and animation, but it's made in 2018, and it is about COVID. As far as I could tell, it's like before COVID happened, but it's about these dogs that have dog flu and they're quarantined with dog flu. And I mean, I forget what we were bringing up about dogs, why this was important a second ago, but basically,
we're talking about eating dogs.
Yeah. I don't know if that was exactly why.
The morality behind it, and the part they were a state and they're part of your property and they had a utilitarian purpose.
I forget. Watch Isle of Dogs. It's about COVID. That's the main thing I want to get out of that.
Let's be real. There's a lot of good dog movies. Look at Balto. You could say that was prescient, you know, because it was about COVID before it was about COVID.
The best dog movie is Benji.
Yeah, it was just so funny when like I said that in the chat and they were like, "What's Balto?" And I was like, you never heard of Balto? Balto was a stupid animated movie semi-based on a real story.
Based on a real dog, an Alaskan dog. Yeah, Balto the Alaskan husky.
Yeah, we love dog movies. Dog movies are good because they're such good companions.
It's true. Actually, I'm a huge fan of dog movies and pet movies. I don't know what it is. I just love them.
What's the movie with the there was like a golden retriever, a Siamese cat. It was the three of them. It was a long
Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound. That shit was good.
I'm here for you, boy. I can't understand you, but I'm here for you. And the kid's crying as he's saying goodbye to the dog. Oh, that was incredible. Wasn't that? I just loved being a kid that time. That was the best time to be alive.
Hells yeah.
I'm gonna watch Homeward Bound again. Thank you for bringing that up. That was a good.
I feel like Disney. I feel like the Disney Channel, like when they secured their own cable network channel, they were like, "Yo, let's just steal from Bollywood and make our own fucking bullshit original movies." And they were like hits, like Smart House or Luck of the Irish or Motocrossed or you know what I'm talking like Double Toilet Trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Like all
Life was better because there's at a peak. I think that's like right before film. Like social media is kind of ruining that because there's no point in putting any effort into anything. So why would you even bother making a piece of art? But in the 90s, it was like, hey, it's affordable. You could make your own piece of art. And so people started making films, you know? That was nice.
I mean, there was some like Disney Channel. They did some like they pushed the boundaries a bit sometimes. Like they had Shia LaBeouf play like a retarded person, you know, like in this movie called True Confessions. And like Shia LaBeouf just did it. He did the full like I Am Sam thing, and I was like, that's probably what he was thinking too. He was like, yeah, I could do Sean Penn, you know, or you know, like I could do that, you know, like
easy, yeah.
I respect the shit out of it for that. You know, I respect that. I think out of all the movies, more than Transformers, I respect Shia LaBeouf for True Confessions. That was the real.
Nicholas likes Air Bud better. I don't know if I love Air Bud. I think Air Bud's okay. Here's my issue with Air Bud. They're saying the entire time, and I've made this point before. They constantly are saying there's no rule that says a dog can't play basketball. That's the whole. Here's the thing, though. The dog isn't a student, and there is a rule that the students have to play basketball. Only the students. So if he was somehow a student dog, maybe. But they're making it about race. And I think that's very, like Mississippi, Alabama Board of Education, right? It's like that whole thing. It's like, it's not about your race, man. It's about whether you're here to learn or not. Was everybody there to learn?
I also think it's not ethical because like imagine like being on the other team, like how humiliating, like how fucking embarrassing it is to lose
be beaten by a dog.
Yeah, you're like maybe some of those kids got beat by their parents. Like
Plague Dogs is good.
we paid how much to send you to the best schools? You got schooled by a golden retriever. Give me my bill.
Have you guys seen Plague Dogs? Plague Dogs is really a good one. It's from the creators of Watership Down. So if you like really messed up movies about animals, Plague Dogs, it's incredible. If you want to see, I'm getting like
Watership Down. Like
it is. It's made by the people who made Watership Down, and it's dark and about experimenting for medical cosmetics and health reasons on animal. It's incredibly. I like movies like this for sure. I think kids need to know about suffering, and this is probably a good metaphor or venue into it. Seriously.
Yeah.
Kids are too guarded. I mean, like, I think it's back and forth. So you had the kinder, gentler times of the 50s, and then you had our rotten.com seeing dead bodies on the internet in the early 2000s. We've seen too much. And then you got this next generation. They're like, we should be more like the kinder generation for the 50s, where these kids don't know anything. And all these kids that you see today they don't have access to the data that we had. It's like it's too much censorship. And maybe we're a little numb or a little jaded for seeing all this stuff, but I don't know, man. I feel like if you don't see Brave Little Toaster, if you don't see Watership Down, then how are you going to be prepared for a school shooting? And how are you supposed to be an American if you can't, know what to do in times of normative crisis?
Yeah, not like where you rely on a Captain America figure to come and save the day.
Seriously, yeah. Your own personal Jesus. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like because those were always like non-big studio works. Those were always like indie movies or something like weird, experimental, low budget. Everything like big budget was always like trust the army man, trust the government spy spook, trust the superhero, trust the You know, trust the person who's authorized to do this. Like, don't do anything yourself. You're just one of those normal people that got crushed in the invasion.
Yeah, I don't know why we think that is what Americans need.
Which is why I'm
yeah.
surprised they even bothered to remake Red Dawn.
Red Dawn, though, one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't hate the Korean version. That movie makes me respect the communists so much more because they're Koreans.
It was epic.
Yeah, the Koreans look so swole in that, and they're all just like, I mean, it's great. It's great. It's the greatest thing ever. Like, I actually root for them. That's the difference between the old and the new Red Dawn.
I hope these guys catch those fucking.
I kind of do. I hope these Koreans win this time. You know, just take it down.
If they made Red Dawn into a show, I would watch the shit out of that show. It would be a good show.
Oh yeah.
There would be a lot of
like game show.
Yeah, like drama and intrigue. They could have like undercover. There would be constant tension. You know, it's like, oh, do they know that this kid's mom, you know, like is still like whatever, like working for the Koreans? I don't know. It'll be funny. It'll be good.
Well, I loved in the original Red Dawn. At the end of the movie, this old man gives his daughters to the young, able-bodied American boys, and just sends them off with them. He's like, "Take care of them, keep them alive." And there's just something about that's just so real.
American.
It's
American.
Yeah. It's like, no, I can't do. This is the best I can do for them. I gotta do the best I can. And this is the best I can do.
I mean, I think like a lot of people can recall a situation where it's like it was like literally no one but a bad situation. Their friend, and there's like one friend was like, I could call my dad, and he was the one friend with a cool enough dad to actually come through and pull them out of this. And it's like, all right, get in. I'll handle this.
Yeah.
Just go home, go to your houses, don't talk about this, you know, like, and that's it, you know, like it was just that. It's literally that. It's a cool dad trope. It's like, oh, your friend.
I mean, I know I'd be like that too. Like I'm probably going to be the kind, if I'm a dad, it's going to be the kind that like I'm neurotic and Slavic. So I'll be overreacting to nothing a lot of the time, you know, like unless something's wrong. Because if my kid's like, Dad, I'm arrested, or Dad, there's a problem, I'm going to just be like, I'll be right there. There's not another word. So it's in a serious time of trouble, you just immediately act. But when nothing's wrong, then you can just argue and dissect what actually is right or wrong about reality with them.
Well, I mean, because like eventually those lines start to blur.
I love Iron Will, by the way. It's a good movie.
Yeah, eventually the lines start to blur and you're like, oh shit. Like I don't know if I should interject or not, but at least I've been in my fair share of stupid shit. I've been arrested like multiple times. I know what it's like to like spend a night in a fucking cell and it's not cool. I know what it's like to like be stressed out about like some petty shit. It's like, what are they going to say in court? Oh my God, a court date. And years later you realize like, wow, that was really stupid. But yeah, I mean, if you've been through that, like then once your kid as an American, especially your kid who's been through that, you know, like if inevitably they're going to be in a similar situation, and at least you could tell them it's like, all right, listen, just you know, just don't say anything, you know, like just try to be good, don't cause any trouble, you know, like, and
don't rock the boat right now. Yeah,
I'll try to pick you up when I can, you know, like, that's it. Like
Duke Nukem asked, Andreas, what do you think about the Anunnaki? I guess they're mostly from Bosnia. I don't know what you want me to say. I like the Anunnaki, especially the Anunnaki women. If you're like 2 feet taller than me and have an extra set of molars, you know, call me.
Okay, the Anunnaki. Now, here's what I think about the Anunnaki. I think where they fucked up is they looked at human women and they were like, they're just too good. I mean, I know I'm like 9 feet tall and she's only like 5'6", but god damn it, it's making my 2 foot penis like so stiff, and I think all of that has to go inside that, you know, which is fucked up. But hey, they probably made it work somehow. Maybe the Anunnaki had technology to just shrink them temporarily into normal size, and they're like, okay, now I could have sex with you.
I know you don't watch porn, but it can happen. I mean, I don't know these days.
yeah. Like yeah. I did 1,000 Anunnaki in a day. How about that? You know, like, now I'm pregnant. I don't know which one the dad is. No, but that's legit. That's legit how it happened. You had these demigods, these Anunnaki, or these like half gods who are like, God, these fucking monkey experiments that we created are just so
cute
sexy.
humans. Yeah.
I just gotta Yeah, I gotta have one. For
I think
myself.
I gotta blame the women a little bit too. You know what I mean? What were they wearing? And you got to imagine that they probably thought these tall Anunnaki with the wings and everything. Like, I can only imagine it was also her fault. I could be wrong.
No, it's a good point. I mean,
If you could date a god, you would. I was just saying that at myself. Like, if I knew the Anunnaki were interested, just saying, like, hey, cute Anunnaki girl, 2 feet taller than me, extra set of molars. Call me.
Also, like, maybe they had cone heads.
That would be a little weird.
Elongated skulls.
Yeah. Good point. I could I be into a Homo capensis? Could I be into a girl with like a? I could eat dog. I could do a lot of things. It's possible.
Maybe your kids would not have an elongated skull, but they would retain like all the extra folds in the brain and like psychic
loincloths
powers
are hot. Shit. Girls wearing loincloths, guys wearing loincloth. Anybody wearing a loincloth is going to look good if you're trim. If you're running from dinosaurs and all muscular, you're probably doing all right in a loincloth.
Yo, let's harp on that a bit. Let's talk about how like clothes essentially have not really changed much. I mean, they've expanded in utility. We have pockets. That's great. But as far as like putting clothing over and like fasteners, that's another thing. Fasteners.
I think we need to step back a bit, so it's like clothing's gone too far. I think the crotch zipper is the problem. As soon as we started putting a zipper that close to your genitals, that's when you knew clothes had gone too far.
Okay, fine. I agree with that. We could remove the zippers from the genital area. However, I'm sorry. I am a fan of like utility clothing. Like I'm a fan of that shit. Like I like Carhartt jackets.
Fair.
I like that shit. I like thick canvas, like construction made, like fucking worthy devices like bags and jackets. And
I would comfortably wear Maoist Chinese concentration camp gear made of hemp.
You know what?
No problem.
That's a good point. Like the capitalists really did come up with the best tech wear. Like if you look up like 511 like tactical like tech wear, their shit is actually useful. Like even if you don't have guns, like you could still use that as a graffiti artist to loop back. But like I'm saying like there's a lot of cool tactical shit that's just all synthetic, all synthetic fibers. But you know what? As a martial artist, and when I do martial arts, I'm not wearing like thick cargo jeans and combat boots and shit. No, I'm just wearing like very basic shit. More wearable tech is coming. All right,
wearable tech's going to be the future for sure. Yeah.
Here's what I like about wearable tech. I want better glasses. Like, and I think it's coming. It's definitely coming. Like like if you have big names like Ray-Ban, like
Facebook,
and Meta, like coming together, and they're able to collaborate to create like a good product. I don't know if it's good. I never tried it, but the only thing is, like, here's the deal. Like in our generation, maybe like the next generation would be able to handle it better. But if I was hanging out at a party and I knew that they were wearing some fucking glasses with a camera on, I'll be like, I'm not going to talk to this person. Like, fuck out of here.
Do you think silk? Connor asked, what's the best clothing in bed? I like silk. My one concern with silk is like I used to have silk sheets and it was slippery. I'd like jump on my bed and I'd like slide off. You know what I
mean? I just imagine like a slippery Andre's like, whoop.
Yeah. So I would say like maybe like linen sheets are probably all right. Cotton. I think cotton's super underrated. You can do amazing things with cotton.
All right. So here's
and hemp, obviously.
My take on like sleeping platforms. I think the best thing to sleep on. All right, so I have caveats, but the best thing to sleep on is honestly the floor. Like just put a nice futon mattress on the floor and sleep on that. And then in the morning, fold it up and put it away. However, it's terrible for sexual intercourse. You want
futon on the floor is bad?
Yeah, I don't want to have sex on a futon on the floor. I'd rather have a nice like. This is why all the Japanese people go to love motels and don't fuck in their actual houses.
Interesting.
I mean, think about
how
economically Japanese people, like not non-rich, non-upper middle class Japanese people, sleep on the floor for the most part. So they're like, oh yeah, come to my place to have sex on the floor. And
dude, there might be something to that.
I mean, why do you think love motels are so big and it's like a huge booming business? Like, sure.
What do you think about being grounded though? Like, if you're slept, like, how do you feel? Are you in a elevated building in New York, or are you on the ground
Me
floor?
personally, I sleep like any other white person. I have a bed. I have a queen size. You know, like I
because
have
you know all white people sleep the same.
yeah. I have a queen size bed, a full queen size bed just for me.
But not on the floor, and you're not
No.
on the first level of the building.
The reason why I know this though is when I was living with roommates in apartments, I was sleeping on the floor. Like my friends, my roommates would come into my room. It's like, you just didn't get a bed yet. It's like, I don't know, man. Like
But are you on like the 30th floor, or like you're not on the first floor of a building?
Oh,
You're
no,
not on the ground.
No, so I'm on floor 1, but it's technically the second floor. It's technically
Okay, but
the
you're
second
still not
floor.
on the ground. So this is the thing. Like a lot of people talk about grounding, and I'm starting to believe this. I know more and more people that throughout my life lived on a single story house on the ground floor, on the grounded bed, and are grounded people. And I know other people that were from normal, decent families who were raised maybe on the second floor, third floor, 50th floor, who knows? And they're in a bed that's elevated off the ground, and they're all airy people. They're like airheads, not in a bad way.
They're like, yes, you know, I'm all about Zen, and
you're less grounded. And I don't know, man. Like I feel like the higher up you are, the more you want your mattress to be on the ground, because you're trying to figure out a way of grounding energy. Although there are ways that people do this thing where they like tie a metal wire to your bed to the floor that runs to the ground. You know.
I mean, I want to say that there's ways to make it work, and I'm by no means any expert on this. But when I first moved in this apartment, the first thing I did was look up like
grounding sheets and all that. Yeah.
No. I know a lot of people will laugh, but I looked up like Feng Shui principles. Well, it's spelled like Feng Shui or whatever. I don't know, but like they say, like you got to put like certain desks, certain appliances on certain walls, so when you're facing it, you know, like
look how good I am at spelling. I spelled it right.
And I will say this, like in Feng Shui, when you have an elevated bed, do not store shit under your bed. Do not keep clothes, boxes, guns, knives, swords, jewelry, whatever. Just don't keep like junk under your bed. If you have a clean space under your elevated bed, apparently that's okay.
All the better. Yeah.
Yes. And all the energy will flow clear. I don't know how this works. I don't know why it works, but when I like followed the tenets of it, it worked out for me. You know, like I have an elevated bed, but there's nothing under it, just like cat hair, which I have to clean out soon because my cat sheds like a motherfucker. But that's, you know, like whatever.
Cats,
but like
man.
Feng Shui, yeah, look into it, guys. You could reorient, you could orient your whole home to be good.
Feng Shui is one of those things where it's like there's an actual science that nobody knows. So like you can pay. I think Penn and Teller did a bullshit episode where they brought in 30 different Feng Shui people and had each one of them rearrange a room. They had the same room set up, and they're like, okay, make it Feng Shui. And then they bring in the next person after they Feng Shuied it and be like, oh, you make this place Feng Shui. And it made people think this was like a normal house, that they were just showing how Feng Shui works. But they were showing how one person thought the Feng Shui was to move everything over here. And now everything's over there. Someone else comes in and should think it's all Feng Shui. And they say, no, this place is not Feng Shui. Let's move it all over there. And then the next person did the same thing. And like every single time, they're like, this place needs to be rearranged completely. So it had very little to do with energy flow and more to do with their own personal.
Well, what I learned about it is that it's not like there's one optimal thing. It's like, for example, like if you want wealth, then you place your work desk on the eastern wall for austerity. If you want like inner peace, or if you want like good romantic interest, then you place your like lounge couch on the southernmost wall for whatever. And then all your kitchen stuff, like your seating, has to be arranged differently, because it's to me what really it's about like where your psychic energy is oriented and where all the people's psychic energy is oriented, like, and that has to do with like the cardinal direction of like your place on hollow earth.
Could be hollow under your bed, hollow under your feet. Could be a thing.
No,
put
but
organite under the bed and soak that energy.
All the Taoist energy people, they're very big on the cardinal directions of things, like the east, northeast, southwest type stuff, which means they're roundies. They're global, the globers probably.
Nicholas says he lives in a camper trailer on a bed that folds up and there's storage underneath. I bet you there's a workaround, bro. I think you need to get those grounding sheets. That's all it comes down to. Get a pair of sheets that have a wire that runs to the floor. Bikini Truther sends a super sticker. We love you, Bikini Truther. You're great. What a wonderful person. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because like the only reason why I got into Feng Shui in the beginning is because like for the first time when I moved in this apartment, I was living alone and it was just an empty place and I could do whatever I want with. I had nothing. I had no furniture, but so I had to like build up to that. But I was like, where do I want to put everything? And I was like, all right, let's look up Feng Shui. And, you know, they really said that it was like, it's not about like, you know, putting up like posters or paintings or like, you know, bead curtains or anything like that, or rugs. It's where you orient everything. It's like when you sit down to do what you do in your home, where are you facing? You know, like, what are you looking at? Like, for example, my bedroom, they say, you know, don't have anything under the bed for one, don't have any screens. And also I placed my bed in a way where I could look at all the entrances, you know, and that's apparently a position that arrangement cultivates inner power and like agency. So if you want to be like a powerful person, apparently you face your bed in a way where as soon as you wake up, you could look at anyone who comes in and out of the room. You know, like you just look up, you're facing that direction. I mean, that's not always the case. Some people have their bedrooms arranged in a completely different way for different things. Like if you want, I guess, mystery, then you face the opposite. Like you do the opposite. You arrange your bed in a way.
Surprise me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you never know what's going on. And that's another thing. It's not, I don't think it's like about like good or bad. I think it's just what you want, like what you want out of psychic energy. And then you just arrange your shit to like cultivate that, which makes perfect sense to me, you know, because I do believe in psychic energy. I do believe in, you know, direction and intention. So yeah, you know, why not?
What do you think about exchanging energy with people? So like, do you ever worry about interacting with people, like that you're giving them and taking from them energy? Like, do you avoid certain people because you don't want to share
well, after
your
I
energy
answer,
with them and get their
well,
energy in you?
after I answer this question, you have to answer it. But I will say, I used to, but as soon as I learned about this, like before even knowing about like energy exchanges, or energy vampires, like I would just get anxiety about being around certain people. But after learning about this shit, even being around like the sickest person, like I don't really feel scared because like the only way that kind of wisdom or that kind of perspective works with energy is if you believe it's spiritual, if you believe in the spirit and the soul. And I don't know how far anyone watching is on their spiritual journey, but I got to a point where I realized everyone is just the same soul living out different lifetimes in different bodies. Like we're all just fractalizations of the same Godhead. We're all just branches of God's soul, you know, just projected into different meat sacks. But ultimately, like underneath all that, we're just the same fucking soul. We're the same fucking thing. Like if you take away the body, take away the biases, take away the thoughts, take away the culture, take away everything, and like really break us down as just thinking entities. We just are the same thinking entity. We are God. We are the Godhead. And I know that's not like, that's a little deep, but you know, that affects the way I like think about these things in my relationships with people. So I could come across like the biggest scumbag or the biggest sweetheart. And yes, I would be able to differentiate them on like multiple levels of like physicality, but on a metaphysical level, it's like, you know, we're ultimately the same thing. This is why I could empathize with like, I guess, a serial killer or a nun. You know, I'm like, all right, I get it. This is the way you choose to lead your meat sack in this meat sack world, in meat space. Like, I get it. All right. You know, but ultimately, maybe, and some people don't even know that. Some people, I do that too. They don't even realize they are a soul being. You know, some people don't even look at themselves as a being with a soul or a spirit. They just look at themselves as a massive cells, you know, and that just dies. That's it. That's all they're here to do. Just experience physical, animalistic meat pleasure. And okay. And that's fine. You know, if that's what they want, and okay. But I don't think that's true, because we could think, and that kind of changes things. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of makes things a little weird.
Yeah, that's true. I think for me, it's like if you eat, I can eat. I mean, you know, a lot of people think they're strong. You know, boys especially are like, I'm a strong man. I can eat. You know, I can drink a lot of beer and I'll be fine, right? And you might not be fine the next day, but then the next day you're okay. Like you can process it. I think that's a lot what it's like if you're taking up the energy from a person that's poisonous. And it's one thing to binge drink or to deal with energy vampirism once in a blue moon. It's another thing to do it every single day. And I think that a lot of people get overwhelmed. It's like the Green Mile, where you get all these locusts in you, and at a certain point there's just too many locusts inside of you. And I think that you have to be very careful about dark energy. And it's true that we're all both multiply the same intelligences, you know, sea foam of space-time intelligences that are being manipulated or transmuted.
Okay, so yeah, to reflect that, I'll paint two pictures for you. There's one picture, which is a romanticized picture, which is there's forces of good and evil. There's forces that care about production, going from 0 to 1 of providing, and all they want to do is just expand and just make things richer. And there's some forces that just want to exploit everything and destroy everything and just take advantage of the weak and all this stuff. And they just want to destroy what is righteous and holy.
Yeah.
And then
I think a lot of weak people are promoting by accident that kind of dark, corrupt. They're controlled by it, and they're convincing them other people to become weakened and controlled by it.
Like slave morality versus master morality and all that shit. Yeah, that's
a lot of people that usually have like a lot of drama in their life. They have a lot of hang-ups. They can't control themselves. They can't self-realize, and they're constantly feeling like they're trapped and that they can't make their own choices. The universe is making them respond the way they are.
Exactly.
So, well, there you go. You're possessed.
But then there's another painting. That's number one. There's another painting. The second one is that it's just purely mechanical. It's all physics based. It's nature abhors a vacuum, meaning if there is an excess within the good space, then evil will come to take it up. And then once it takes it up, then it creates a vacuum in the evil space. And then eventually that's a vulnerability that inevitably the light will come and overtake that. And it's just this interplay back and forth. And once that's the Hermetic way to look at things. That's like the Gnostic sense, where it's like everything is not about good or evil prevailing. It's about this constant
integration.
Yeah, it's the interplay between the both. It's once you see the pendulum swinging, you're like, okay, once I can't unsee the pendulum swinging. So it's not just about going left and right. Suddenly it's about going up and down. When I'm
that
down,
was Manichaeism. Yeah. Manichaeism was this idea that there was all one, and then one was divided into dark and light, and then the light convinced the dark to swallow it. So the dark, the light was swallowed by the darkness, right? But that meant that the light was inside of the darkness, and it started to shine through it, right?
And it creates its own dynamic. Like it's always going to be oscillation. It's never going to be static. It's never going to be all dark. It's never going to be all light. Like, and I'm not, and like, again, like I'm not a specialist. I think we all intuitively know this. It's like every time I try to do something good, something bad happens. Every time I just want to be bad, like there's always something making me want to be good again. Like it's just obvious. Like, let's just accept it. Let's just accept that it's never going to be one or the other. That what we have to do is accept the oscillation. And once we do, once we accept the pendulum swing, then we can learn how to swing up and down. And then we get to the next level, which has its own left and right swing. And then it goes up and down again. And that's how you go up dimensions. Like that's how you're able to conceive of 5D, as the New Agers like to call it.
I think you can learn skills other people don't have. And you can you can eat and poop out darkness. It can go right through you. And it doesn't have to be something that completely takes you over. But I do think for the most part, people that are repeatedly getting bombarded with darkness every day, it's easier to become infected or impregnated by that evil.
Well, I was like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's like, what's the best way to get them impregnated with that evil, quote unquote? It's to make them unaware that they're swinging. It's to make them unaware that they're constantly on this interplay of like good and evil. It's once you make them unaware, then they become your slaves. I always say this: if you really want to control someone's life, you don't like force them to do anything. All you got to do, like, you could be a coworker, a family member, or a friend, but if you could every single day make them feel happy at a specific time, sad at a specific time, then angry at a specific time, and the next day you repeat that cycle. Once you do that to someone, you control their fucking reality, because that's 1/3 of their reality that they're unaccounted for. Most people only account for 2/3, which is your mental and your physical reality. Your emotional reality, that's irrational. That's not serious. That's emotional. That's not something you should take seriously. But yet that's still like a whole third of it. And if you could patternize that in a person externally, artificially, you control a whole fucking third of their reality. You control a third of their life. And that's what media does. I think that's what this whole meta overton window is about. It's about like cycling those emotional states between us collectively, individually, ultimately collectively, as above, so below. But yeah, like it makes sense. Like once you get to that, I guess, like that level of like hermetic wisdom, you're like, okay, so once you understand the interplay of like the pendulum swinging, it's like first I experience this, then this. And if you're so low frequency that you're only caught up with your present state in that, and you can't see like how it's swinging in the bigger picture, then it is what it is. Then I guess you're at that level, but it's fine. It's like, I also believe in reincarnation. You know, if you don't get it in this life, maybe you'll get it in the next like 1000. You know, maybe it's not even linear time wise. Like maybe like if you're like, yeah, if you're a racist in this life, and then you die, and then you wake up as a black person in like the
In the
60s.
1600s, that'll
Yeah,
show.
yeah,
Yeah. That makes sense. I like that. Someone said it's not like impregnation. Where was that comment? Sir Real Nil said it's not impregnated. It's the matter of the shoeless making the shoes for the barefooted done on their shoeless. I don't know about that metaphor, but I can get you on maybe it's the darkness impregnated with the light. That's the Manichaeanism thing. But the light isn't impregnated. If you're a swinger between the light and the darkness, it's just getting fat. It's like if you drink every day and you just get bad liver disease and you get fat. I think that's what happens if you constantly are consuming negativity and surrounding yourself with negativity. And so I don't know, maybe I think the stronger people are able to really help the victims of negativity, though, because it's really good for them if you can pull all that energy out of them and push them onto a new path.
Well, there's
a lot of people are slaves.
There's a threshold, because once you reach that frequency, that state where it's like, dude, I understand God. Not God as in like, oh, the guy who's gonna fix all my fucking problems. No, that's the incorrect way to look at God. The God as in your source. That's your root. That's where you come from. That's your divine spark. When you take, if I were to slit your throat right now, you would go back to becoming God. You know, like that's really what God is about. And when you get to that level, it's like, okay, so then what is evil? Evil is just forgetting that. Evil is literally just forgetting you are like you are the producer of every single outcome. You know, like once you understand that, it's like, what the fuck is the point of doing evil then? You know, I've only done evil ever in anyone's life because I was scared of dying, scared of losing, scared of not having, scared of being lesser, scared. It's fear-based. It's a negative frequency. And when you look at it this way, you don't have to add all this divine morality to it. It could all be pretty physical. It could all be basic engineering. It's like, all right, you know, positive, negative frequencies, and you just align it, right? It's like wiring. Just wire yourself, because that's what our body is. It's just a biological circuit board at the end of the day, you know, when it comes to like all its functionings. We have our transistors, we have our resistors, we have our intercoolers, we have our radiators, we have our fuel injection systems, we have our fuel intake systems, you know, we have everything. We're basically like that. And you can rewire yourself based on that good principle, which is, you know, in engineering, engineers seem secular, but they're not. It's good orderly direction, GOD, you know?
Good orderly direction. I like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I view it. When, you know, like
Good orderly direction.
and it's not like I went to college or technical school or anything, but when I work on things like my car and like I really figure out how things work, I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, like you're trying to make input to output in the most efficient and proper way possible. And that applies to not just cars, but programming, but to consumer products even, you know, when it comes to like user interface to like the end output. I get it, you know, like, and, you know, because I'm an idiot, because like I'm not, you know, like a fucking, you know, grad student of any technical field.
Most grad students I know, I don't want to say most are idiots, but I know a lot of dumb grad students.
But this is why I have faith in humanity. You know, like I do have faith in people. I have faith. I'm optimistic. I do think if I could figure it out, anyone could figure it out. I mean, some people
is alcohol free since 2015. Just want to say congratulations, bro. Keep your liver tissue from getting too fatty. Stay straight, bro. Nice.
Well, what I like about AA is that they totally rip from like real spiritual, like real alchemy. You know, like they know what they're doing. And I don't know if like, you know, everyone in AA knows the hermetic tradition, the hermetic root of like AA or the Gnosticism or the Christianity behind it, but fuck, it's awesome. You know, I like
we could have saved AA 66 years ago. I am certain that the LSD experience has helped me very much, said Bill Wilson in what was this 1957? He writes in his letter, I find myself with a heightened color perception and appreciation of beauty, almost destroyed by my years of depression. The sensation that the partition between here and there has become very thin and is constantly with me. I think, I'm not saying everyone should take LSD if they're alcoholics, but you know, AA used to. I mean, Bill Wilson did, and that's cool. Good for him, right? That's all I have to say about that.
There's some people in my life that I would consider materialistically successful, like very, very well off. But I don't know how to put it, but I want to say, I'm just going to use like whatever terminology. I'm just going to say spiritually they're damaged. You know, like they they do wrong by people somehow. Like they may inwardly, outwardly have good intentions, but somehow everything they do just hurts. Like they just
Yeah.
but they have
They
a
don't
lot.
mean to. They're
They
just
don't mean
yeah.
to.
They don't understand
And
the
yet-
values of the people. Or yeah.
Yeah, I think the problem is this damage.
Not Joe King says Jesus is greater than AA. All right, but you know what? Jesus can be part of AA because they're all about your own higher power. So that might be one of those. What's the symbol there? It's this. How do you do that? There you go. Jesus is more greater than or equivalent to AA. Is that right? Or AA is equivalent? I should do it the other way around. AA
If
is
else, you should do a programming so it's like if else.
F of X equals AA is greater than or equal to Jesus. Okay. Okay. F of X is equal
There you
to AA is greater or equal to Jesus.
Wow, that looks fancy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Legit. Yeah, goofballs is what they used to call it. And maybe that's another name for the group. Instead of your own higher power, just have some goofballs. Destiny is replaying the same activities to grind the loot to use the best to use in the same activities. You can get the best loot, so you have all of the best loot to use in said activities and be God. Interesting. Okay. I like it. I mean, I think getting resources is important, but it's also the other way around. It's like, it might be like you're saying, it's non-linear, and your soul, the better you are, the harder it gets. That's the way it should be. The levels should get harder. And it should be that at a certain point, you're like, you know, a quadriplegic in the 5th century in a genocidal state run by, you know, corrupt pedophiles, and that there's no hope for you. That should be like the boss level. You know, the boss level should be being Jesus. You know, like you reincarnate until you get there.
Everyone you know just wants to kill you.
Yeah, yeah. Even though all you want to do is help people, right? I think there should be like more difficulty. Not
I think there's the extremes, right? There's on one end, you want to kill everyone you know, and then there's the other end, everyone you know wants to kill you. So you want to be, you know, like to get to the higher level.
You got to go through it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
If the less people you want to kill and the more people that want to kill you, the better off you are. If you don't want to kill anybody, and if everyone wants to kill you, then you're a good person.
I want to test that out, but I don't know. I mean, like that might be true about Trump.
It's normal to want to kill people. It's normal to be so mad at some of these like fucking incompetent assholes that are just ruining lives for everyone. Say, I'm just gonna kill it. But it's a very rare person to say, I don't want to kill anybody. And that's so dangerous where evil people will be like, this guy has to die. Like, I have to kill this fucking pacifist idiot. Like, he's just giving me a bad name, you know? Like, so yeah.
I think a lot of pacifists are fake. John Cusack always says he's anti-war. And then like earlier today, he wrote this crazy, you know, thing about Zelensky, right?
Yeah.
It was like what Trump and his cronies don't understand is that they won't stop fighting regardless of what Trump does. I had to literally look it up because I was like, wait, isn't John Cusack the guy who defines himself as being anti-war? Isn't that like his whole anti-war? Is right here, political views. Cusack is anti-war. That's like his whole thing. Being anti-war is pro-troops and pro-human. Like the whole thing, I think, is interesting that you can be you can say you're a pacifist, but really what you want is the same thing everyone else wants.
I mean, could we talk about what anti-war really is? It's anti-killing. Now, look, I can't speak for everyone because everyone has been through some shit, as far as I can tell, as everyone I've ever met, you know, as who's an adult. So as far as I can say, it's like, are you good with forgiveness? Like, are you good at forgiving people? Like, if, you know, I've had people done like unforgivable shit to me. And yet I could honestly say 100%, I don't even have to get into it, but I'll say I forgive these people. I do. You know, and these people have been really close. Some people are blood, like family members that have fucked me over so bad. It's been permanently damaging. But at the end of the day, I have to forgive them. Now, I understand.
How far do you take that? Like, say somebody.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's say you're in a car accident and someone's driving you, and you end up in a quadriplegic state and can't speak properly for the rest of your life.
You're absolutely right. Yes, I would. But there's a difference. There's a difference between like, I don't have any kids. If I had kids and someone hurt my kids, I don't know if I could forgive that. If someone hurt me by pure accident, non-malicious intent, I could
No, even
probably
if it's
forgive-
malicious and intentional. Like, let's say
no,
somebody
no.
wanted
If
to,
it's malicious, like I can't forgive malicious.
forgiveness is a weird thing because we're
Yeah,
told
it
that
is
we're
a
supposed to be forgiving, but it's like, and also to be anti-death or anti-war, anti-killing. It's like, I mean, they try to teach you at an early age in Lion
but dude,
King
if someone
that
fucks me,
Hakuna Matata is less than killing Scar, right?
yeah. I'm just gonna say, if someone fucks me up by accident, I could forgive that. But if someone fucks my kid up, that's like so much harder. And that's why parents are vulnerable. Ultimately, they are the most vulnerable, glowy agents. Because like it takes a parent for you to like a Fed or some fucked up entity to be like, take your kid and compromise your kid and be like, you better do what I say or I'm going to harm your child. And then
Hakuna Matata is less than law of jungle vengeance, I think is the next statement, right? Because if someone hurts your kid, if someone kills your dad, I mean, like in Lion King, you can actually see Mufasa's skull being played with by Scar near the end of the movie.
It's almost like in some cases it's just not smart to forgive. In some cases it's just not smart to let them slide. Like some cases you're way better off materially, just like, all right, now I got to do something bad. Like that's there's no way to argue that. And I think that's part of the deal of living in 3D. That's part of the deal of living in this like animal meat space world. Like you just have to deal with that dynamic. Like,
what are some unforgivable things in your opinion, right? Like what can you not forgive? And
well, this is why I'm blessed, because I feel like because I don't have kids, because I don't have a wife, I don't have children, I'm in a very good position where I could forgive anything. If I had a wife and if I had kids or a girlfriend, even, like, there's probably less things I could forgive. If it's
Law
just
of the Jungle is less than Wrath of Almighty God. I like that too. Yeah, if it's just you can forgive a lot more than you can on behalf of your family and children or people else.
Exactly, because I like right now everything I get into, I got myself into. But if I was married or had a family, there's way less things, like that I could forgive, 100%.
Right. I feel like go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, what else is there? And this is why, like, I look at parents, especially like political extremist parents, like, you have like parents who are like extremely leftist liberals, and you have parents that are extremely like right-wing conservatives. And like, I get it. They're doing this because of fear. They're scared. Like, whether they're scared that their children can't just like get a sex change whenever they want, or whether they're scared that their children will be forced to get a sex change whenever someone else wants. Like, either way, like it's born out of, that's what extremism is. Like, it's born out of that fear of the other side. So I get that. And like, like, I can't deny it. Like, if I had a kid, like, I would fall victim to either or, maybe, like, you never know.
Are you in love?
Me?
Yeah.
With a person?
Yeah, with the person.
No.
Although I should have been more open there. Now, because you said you're not. Are you in love just generally somehow? Is there another in love?
Yeah. I'm kind of in love with life right now.
Yeah, beautiful,
dude. I can't say shit like, oh, everyone's the same soul living out different lives in different bodies, unless I actually mean it. Unless I'm actually living that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am living that. Like, where it's like I look at people, whether I hate them or really like them, I'm like, shit, you're just another version of me. Like, I could have been just like you if I was like born, with like a different genetic buildup or from a different womb. Like, shit, like my soul could have been just like
you can empathize in new ways. What about love with a person? Why don't you feel like you're in love? What's keeping you from being in love?
It's hard because when I went back, from what I understand about previous versions of love, I was always like, oh, you have to love someone because of who they are and their uniqueness. Now, like, yes, I can empathize with people more, but they seem less unique to me. Everyone seems less unique, and I don't hate. Trust me, like, because I look at people less uniquely, it makes me hate everyone or anyone.
More equally.
No. Well, it makes me hate anyone a lot less. Like, what's the point of hating anyone? Like, if everyone's just like the same thing, like, what the fuck is the point?
Not that you should get your relationship advice from Woody Allen for a number of reasons, but there was one thing he said I thought was interesting in the 80s when he was dating, what's her name, right? Oh my God, what was Woody Allen's ex-wife? Mia Farrow. When he was dating Mia Farrow, and he said, he had been dating wrong in the past. When he broke up with somebody, the first thing he would do is figure out what he did that caused the other person to be upset or was bad in the relationship, and stop doing that and start being something different. right? Because he's trying to change himself
Yeah.
to be better. And really, what he realized was he should continue being the same person with new, very different people. Why treat the new person you're dating the way you treated the last person you're dating? They are similar. Snowflakes are all hexagonal, but they're different enough. And maybe this new person you should be looking for, the big difference should be that they react differently to you. Not so much that you don't trigger them the way you triggered the last person, but can you find a person who appreciates the way you actually are, right? And I think that's something that we don't necessarily do. We're always thinking it's our fault and we need to change. I don't know. Instead of having figuring out how everyone else changes.
This is where horseshoe theory kind of comes into play and where oscillationism comes into play. It's like once you get to that point, right? Like where as a guy, I'm like, all right, if everyone's the fucking same soul living out different lives, different bodies, and I'm just this fractalization of the Godhead being projected into this body. And I make the best of this body. I try to anyway. I built it up, I made it fit. I taught it skills. I taught it, like fun things. I made it feel good when I wanted to and all that shit. If I could do that, then why not? I'll keep this game going and I'll find an optimal partner, and I'll give all my sincere emotions to it. I'll say like, yes, let's share a life together. Let's do this together. I can't unsee the meta. I can't unsee the metaphysical part of it where it's like, yeah, however, I can play the game. Yes, I can do this. I can, and it's not even like I'm asking for an enlightened woman partner either. No, it's like if I could be with any woman that doesn't annoy me, and yeah, sure, we could do that. And I feel like that's like describing anyone. Like I feel like a lot of people, they make the mistake of where they get to the metaphysical state, and they're like, oh, I could only be with a woman who's just as enlightened as me, or I could only be around people who are just as enlightened as me. No, fuck that. Because remember, we're all the same shit, regardless of whether they know it or not. So why stress over it? Just play the fucking game. You're in the game. Play the fucking game. Play the game in the way that makes you happy. And I think the optimal way it makes me happy is, like I want to meet a cute girl. I want to do cute things. I want to fucking go watch movies. I want to eat hot dogs together. I want to go out to dinner. I want to fucking like do all that shit. I want to do all the stupid shit that I saw in the movies. And maybe it was pre-programmed and maybe we are destined for greater things. But until then, that's a good baseline to, work off of. We could do that.
You need a girl that like wants to make a plan 5 days from now with you. And then they plan it together. And then you guys get up in the morning on that day and you go do the thing. And it's all, I can tell like long-term planning and short-term planning is something that you find beautiful, like planning and achieving goals as a team would be hot. I get that.
Yeah, just having a good day at like fucking Six Flags Great Adventure would be like, that's a worthy enough way to spend time, I think. And because like I know if I die, or the worst thing that could happen is I do it all over again. The best thing that could happen is I figure out what comes next. I'm ready for either or, like I get it.
I just don't let people who believe in reincarnation drive me. Otherwise, I'm fully into it. I think just the whole thing of like, if you think you can get it right next time and I'm the passenger, that's usually when I don't want to do the reincarnation thing. But I don't know. What about who hurt you? Is that like, I don't know, it's supposed to be questions for me, but like, do you have like do you think that there's like people you loved that made it harder for you to be in love and to be vulnerably in love with someone anymore? Like, is there a reason that you're working on your own shit so much instead of trying to go to Six Flags with some girl?
I think it's because we're going through tough times right now. I don't think it's a me thing. I think it's our environment. Like we're there's a lot of like cultural, political upheaval. A lot of people are working through their shit psychically. I think we're going through a collective evolution of a psychic evolution, not necessarily like anything, which is why it's hard to talk about. It's hard for newscasters can't fucking talk about it on their shit. So I think like people are just like evolving. I think we're going through growing pains. Yo, I wasn't like I'm willing to go, but could you put on a song like while I use the bathroom for like 2 minutes?
Yeah. All right. Let's do that.
Yeah. All right. Do it. I'll be right back.
Let's see. Well, this is fun. I like this one. Here, we're gonna do this one. Yes. Yes. Let's do a solo of his room here. How you all doing tonight? Hope you're in a good mood. I love this song. Do you come here often? I said, never mind. We'll talk after. Please, let's dance. Ugh. I said I love this song. Do you come here often?
Oh my god, buy me a drink.
Yeah, bro.
I like Blue Moon. Get in a tall glass and I want an orange slice on it. Yo, do you buy girls drinks a lot?
I buy my friends drinks. I buy girls drinks. I do that like way more than I buy my own drinks, actually.
Yeah. You know what I've
Yeah.
So I've got all the I got all right, so I got the martial arts thing down and I got the whatever down, but I got to learn how to make drinks. I got to learn how to fucking
Dude,
make cocktails.
I got the book right up there. I got to find it. So my friend Maitland, who was on APM a couple of weeks ago and was just talking a lot, the guy who was from his southern accent.
I
and the
know
bus.
Maitland. Yes.
Yeah.
I know Maitland. Yeah,
Brilliant.
dude.
Dude, he's a really interesting character though. But I mean, he had a girlfriend for a while who was studying cosmopolitan. What do you call that? Mixology, where you mix the drinks and everything like that.
Mixology.
Yeah, so I had the book on it and like the Bible of drink making, and I read the thing a bunch. And then when I was in South America, my passport got stolen, and I ended up working at a hostel bar for like months and months and months, like half a year. I was working at this bar, so I actually just lucked out and learned all the drink making. Even though I'm not a big drinker, I can pretty much make any drink, which is nice.
You know what that reminds me of? Like, you ever go to a website that everyone like says this is a great website, you know, and then you go to it and it's like, this sucks. Like the user interface is terrible. It's just like all over the place. Like I have to go through too many steps to get to what I want. Like, I mean, I think that's like a case of like shit. You know too much. And so in that sense, like if you go to
here's the book though, you need to get this book, The Bartender Bible, 1001 mixed drinks and everything you need to know about them. Very practical, even if you don't drink. I feel like if you know how to mix drinks, this is one of, you're talking about like things agents need to know. Right. I would think probably this would be one of those things,
So apparently there's one drink, Andreas, that you should get used to like being very judgmental on. And that's like, if you go to any bar, you got to order a martini. And if they can make like a good dry martini for you, like whether
you know how to do a martini, like the right way?
Me? No, I'm not a proper bartender, but
what you do is you get a cup of ice, and then what you do is you pour the vermouth over the ice. Okay. And you pour too much vermouth, but then what you do is you pour out the vermouth and your ice is soaked with the vermouth. That's right. When you put the gin and the olive in, it's the vermouth ice that really does it properly. And you mix that in together with the ice, and when you pour it out, you get this perfect. That's another one from the Art of Mixology, another really important book. And again, like I don't know, when was the last time I had a martini? But like I know how to do the perfect martini. You have to,
really,
right? Yeah, for sure.
No, that is a manly skill. I applaud you for that.
Oh my god, yeah. And then I remember so I watched Cocktail, and I read the book because I was so interested in the story of Tom Cruise becoming a bartender, and that became my life. I was in a bus in Bolivia reading the Cocktail, and I think I watched part of it on my solar powered phone, and then I ended up a bartender, and it was exactly like that. It's like, what's in that? What's this name for that drink or anything like that? It's crazy how many different kinds of drinks
what's funny
exist in different cultures.
Like you're like the light side, and meanwhile my reference points are like Bar Rescue, like the worst bars. You ever watch that show? It's awesome.
I it's a little bit of both because you go.
Yeah, this guy just walks into like any fucking like South Carolina, New Orleans bar, and he just shits all over their fucking like various safety infractions. And
Totally,
it's such a good show.
But it can also be like, so in a hostel, what I remember happening was it's like you know, the weekend comes and everyone's excited because they're on vacation, and they're partying. And then Monday comes and they all go. And then new people show up, right? And then you do it again. It's every single day. You're just exhausted because it's your job. But these people, they're always like, and it's the same music. So they have a playlist they play, and you just talk about emotional manipulation.
Like a jukebox.
At like 9 or 10 p.m., all of a sudden, no, like jukeboxes are one thing. I'm talking about
no,
the bartender
that's
is
the
in
best.
the Australian army and he actually uses mind control. He's like, at 10 p.m., we're going to play that song that makes the girl get drunk, dance on the drunk girl who hears that song will dance on the table. And when she dances I mean, it's just that girl from Australia, right? Like it's every time, every night, there's going to be that one girl and she's going to be that way. But then she falls off the bar. And every time she falls off the bar, some guy has to pick her up. And I just remember like, a girl falls off the bar, there's blood everywhere, and I'm supposed to mop it up and pick up the glass while the dude's carrying this girl out, and you're just hoping that she's fine, like, because this is every single night the way it works at these bars.
Yes. So also if you work like, in a club or something down south, like in Florida, like, yeah, if you're a bouncer, you're going to see some shit because they got guns there. They got all those people have knives, razor blades stored in weird places and shit. So you're always going to see some shit. And my martial arts teacher was a bouncer in Miami, and he was like so when you're dealing with like those fat, stocky, like Puerto Rican chicks or black chicks, like that could beat the shit out of you, or they're storing razor. What you do is you slap their titty, and they go and then you bear hug them, lift them, and then you walk them out of the club.
Right, it's like a shark, once in the nose, upside down, and they reset.
yeah, pretty much. All right, so I got a question for you. So. 2 questions actually. So let's say you owned your own like pub / like jazz club, like there was a stage where bands could play. What would you call the place?
Oh, probably it'd be called the Xirtus at this point, just because I think a long time ago I would have called it Café America. Because it would have been like, it probably would have been in originally, if you'd asked me this before I did YouTube videos, my thought would have been Casablanca, and I would have wanted my club to be in Morocco or Yugoslavia or Ukraine or like Syria. I would have wanted a club that's a place in the middle of action, and I would want it to be this American kind of themed place so that like Eastern Europeans and Arabs and
in Siberia.
I would want it to be like the place that the riffraff and the intelligentsia and the populace and the police could all, happily enjoy together. I think that would be Café America, like Rick's place, and But yeah, the Xirtus, man.
And I was gonna ask, like, what kind of music would you have in the jukebox? But I already know you're gonna say polka.
So, for one thing, at this point, I would not have music that anyone had ever heard before. It'd only be AI generated. Every time you wanted to listen to something, you would have to ask the AI to make a new song, and I'd be hell bent on keeping old songs from being played. However, I'd probably also have bands that played there and did shows and things like that. And polka would probably be a big one. But also I think I like, I love these kinds of things. Like I love going to Nashville or something and listening to old style blues and, rock and I like jazz. So having real instruments and bands, I would have lots of different kinds of, I would have the weirdest possible musicians for sure. I think it would be, if you're a producer, if you got some money and you want the Xirtus bar to be real, trust me, it's not a bad idea. Invest in this idea because we could probably get the coolest musicians together. We have the coolest people on YouTube. We might as well get the coolest musicians together too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it would be nice to throw parties. That's a good moneymaker. Also, it's like it's worth it because that's what people want. I mean, ultimately, they work hard, they make a lot of money, and then like, what do I want to do? Well,
we'd call it the honey pot, and it would be in DC.
And then afterwards, we get pizza at
Yeah, Comet. Yeah. I have a Comet sweatshirt.
Yo, do you think Comet would complain if we had like some event in that city and then we call them out? It's like we want like 300 pizzas. Like this.
No, they're totally. I've been to Comet Ping Pong, and they have really expensive but really good pizza for
Do
sure.
you think that after that whole ordeal they got like way more business?
Sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Although they already had a lot of business because
I
they
bet
did
you-
have an art scene and good bands. They had great bands playing there with horrifying posters, but they had really the DC music scene is really, there's a lot of good music out of DC.
I bet you they're the owners of them are the cop of Cosmo Ping Pong, whatever. They're probably millionaires.
Yeah, they are. I think they were before they even started
Yeah.
the business. Yeah.
So
That
this
whole, you've seen the video on Odyssey, what we know about Pizzagate so far. You saw that.
yeah, it kind of makes me more suspicious of it, how successful they were and are now, despite all.
I'm sure that I could get another strike right now for showing you this video. So I'm not actually going to show you this video. Here's a video you should never, ever watch. Never watch this video. It's going to tell you all kinds of crazy lies and conspiracies. There's no truth whatsoever. What is this nonsense about sacrificing chickens and FBI?
Oh, that's some good pizza. That's some good looking pizza, though.
It's the Besta pizza. Are you kidding me? It's the Besta. It's the Besta pizza. Oh my God. And you can look into Terrasol. I just think people should look at, you should not, don't ever look at this video. How dare you? Don't ever look at this video. But I was trying to find the one part here where they show the outline of the pizza place. Here it is right here. And it is really interesting, right? Because here's Comet Ping Pong Pizzas up north here. And here's the Beyond Borders charity underground to the south over here. And then here's the Hillary Clinton speechwriter's office right here. And here is the underground. Here's the road system, Comet Ping Pong. You can see it's a really interesting location connecting all of these really interesting businesses. Jaime Elefantes, I don't know. Don't take my channel down. I'm just saying, you should watch that video.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I gotta visit there. It's fucked up to say, but if I visit that city, that's like going to be one of the first.
Of course. It's like one of the first things you want to do when you go to DC. Same thing. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, show me the basement. And they're like, But the other thing is you'll go to the front of it. And there's actually what's cool is the back. Behind the pizza place is like the outdoor table areas and everything going on. And that's actually pretty cool. But the fact that they say there's no basement, it's like, well, I talked to David about this. There's plenty of them talking about how they used to have basement tomato stomping parties. Straight up. And then they're like, no, there's no basement. Okay. All right. Whatever you say.
Well, it's probably like, I mean, if you lived in that city and you were involved in like the party scene there, it's like Pizzagate party, blah, blah, blah. And I bet all the hipsters of DC are probably like, oh, another party at Cosmo Ping Pong. Because I'm sure every city has their own little like jaded hipster scene,
For sure. But DC's is like pretty specific. I mean, these are all deep state actors' kids, and so it's a lot like the Topanga Canyon with the Doors and Jim Morrison's dad and the Bay of Tonka. It's like all of these guys there's a reason why they're so political in their music and everything. It's because their parents are political and they're raised in, DC administrations.
I can't think of the last good band from DC.
Besides
Bad Brains.
Vampire Weekend isn't quite the greatest band, but they are from DC. They're okay. I don't think they're bad. I think Rostam Batmangley is interesting, and I like his Discovery project. Exit Clove. Have you ever heard that band, Exit Clove, with that song MKUltra? I remember the days of MKUltra, Operation Mind Control. It's a great band. I don't know. DC is pretty good music, to be honest.
All right, this is what we got to do. We got to start a band. You'll be the front man. I'll be the rhythm guitarist. We need a lead guitarist and a drummer and a bassist. And we'll just have a band. We'll get a girl bassist or some shit, and we'll get some autistic lead guitar aficionado. He'll think he runs the band.
I know a few.
Yeah. He'll think he runs the band. He'll be like, "Oh, we got to do this. We got to do that, and we got to do that."
And we'll be like, "Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
John says best pizza and ever. Definitely no pizza. We have cocktails in a basement. The Xirtus. Oh yeah. Come by the Xirtus. The basement would be the place to hang out for sure. We would make it cool.
Yeah, but no, we definitely got to get the music thing together because like that's now you're discovering like the power of musicianship because like it's it was always accessible to everyone. I think now it's just catching up to everyone that like music making is not difficult, but to do it tastefully is like incredibly difficult. Like that's what I've learned. Like after all my production chops, all the skills I've acquired, I've learned that making music is incredibly easy. Making sounds is incredibly easy, but making tasteful sounds is incredibly fucking difficult. Unless you just got it. And some people just have that. It's like stand-up comedy. Some people just have that bone, and I guess you just don't even have to work at it. You're just naturally good at it. Same with music, like some people have that music.
I think
bone.
even if you have a knack, you have to work at things. Like I don't know anybody
Yeah.
who isn't honing their craft.
I mean,
maybe
imagine
you love doing it and you're willing to do it.
Yeah, it's worse if you have a knack for it because you're always gonna have to push for the greater high. You're like, oh fuck,
Mhm.
like it's like, oh, I could just trigger a heroin high on a command. Damn, like what do I need to do to get a real high? Like it's rough. I know particularly talented people like that, where it's like it goes one or two ways, and it's actually really sad. Like, let's say you're like an aficionado, like just a prodigy at guitar. You're either going to just fall into the line of self-destruction, drugs, and like complete oblivion, or you're just gonna like become like the cool, chilled out guitar teacher at a high school or a private guitar or music school or some shit. And it's like, yeah, I could teach you all the classical stuff, and I could teach you Metallica, like.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking yesterday about my piano teacher who died of cancer. I don't know, it was a super random thought, not necessary to share, but I'm doing it anyway. I was just thinking about it because I remembered. I don't know why I was just thinking, like trying to remember the smell because he had this weird. Oh, it was sad, and this guy was really cool and everything, and no one knew what was going on. But I realized at some point that he was missing a leg all of a sudden, and now all of a sudden he had a fake leg on, but he didn't used to, and it was like, and then eventually like he couldn't do classes anymore. And then he died, and we found out he had cancer. It's like, well, that explains a lot. This guy, this quiet, nice guy who's getting older, had dyed orange hair and died of cancer, like, and the smell getting worse and worse. It was bad, man. I don't know. Random childhood memories.
Like a walking corpse.
Yeah.
Decomposing in front of you.
And like chemicals, like some weird, sweet kind of
formaldehyde.
embalming. Yeah, it was really weird and sad. I mean, again, I was a kid, so I didn't know what was going on. But
I mean, you never know. Could have been like a walking avatar body just being beamed in.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely seemed like he went through a lot over a very quick period of time and then just died. It was a bummer. But, I mean, yeah, musicians' lives are hard, man.
Fuck being a musician, man. Being a music producer is way better than being a musician because you could be both a musician and a music producer. Like, it's just the music producer is like just a higher, it's the meta, like, I'm sorry, it's like just being the person who plays that one instrument religiously. I mean, I respect the shit out of them. Like, without them, like, you wouldn't have greatness. But still, like, you're right. It's like, it's just as you say, it's a rough road. It's like you're gonna dedicate yourself to piano. You're gonna outdo Mozart. You're gonna outdo Beethoven. You're gonna outdo Philip Glass or whatever the fuck his name is. Like, these are titans, like, you're standing on the shoulders of giants. You really think you could outdo that? Like, come on. I mean, I respect it though. To try, yeah, earnestly try.
But being a music teacher also, so like to teach kids how to play piano because you got that far and that skill. I don't know, and like you can get paid. The guy made it through his life teaching piano lessons. So there's something to that. But I don't know, being a music teacher is also different than being a producer or a musician.
Yeah. Because being a music producer, it's like being a movie producer. These like guys like Spielberg and like Ridley Scott and like these big names, like in the director fields, like they're not actual artists to me. They're just like they're like wizards. They're like spellcasters. They're people that are in charge of like shaping like a lot of our reality. They're taking the platform of filmmaking and turning it into this. It's not just propaganda. It's not just psyops. It's like a meta art form, where they're just literally like shaping our values, like right before our eyes, and we're just like eating it up because there's nothing else to like take in.
Totally, it's true. I mean, like I think most people also haven't heard Mozart or Bach or anything. I think few people actually. More in our world, our parents might have listened to classical radio on the radio at some point, but we're not in a world that people are really educated in anymore. It's as much as they don't see rotten.com, they don't see the beauty in the world either. And that might be part of the plan because then everyone is amazed by anything. Like if you use something that was used before and you know it, but no one else does. It's new to them, and you're the one who owns it from now on. So there's constantly been an effort to de-educate everyone so that the educated musicians can share, regurgitated ideas over and over again. I think that's also true.
Yeah, but I think once you get technical enough, it's hard to ignore the artistry of it. Like, whether it's, I don't know, programming, whether it's engineering, whether it's even like car modding, eventually you get to a point where you're like, oh, I see there's like a rhythm to everything. Like no matter what you're trying to do, no matter what you're trying to put together, there's a cohesiveness to it. Maybe it's something you bought and you want to upgrade. And if you made upgrades that made other things fall apart, it makes your upgrade kind of redundant. Like same thing with like, in the process of music making. Like if you want to build a song from the ground up, you got to make sure the bones are good. You could polish a turd as much as you want, but a turd is still a turd.
John Bart says, my first ticket to the Xirtus paid for. I will bring Hawaiian pizza, extra pineapple with anchovies. We might be able to do a thing there. I'm thinking like Chinese food pizza with pineapple. It'd be like, Mongolian beef with some pineapple or something like that. Some of those Chinese chilies or something like that. I could do crazy flavors. California Pizza Kitchen has nothing on the actual Californian pizza. We're crazy.
I think an Xirtus music festival will be good. Like you just and it could be fun. Just have all the music playing. People in the Xirtus verse just show up and just play their sets. I think it could work.
So the thing is, them all spread out. So it's like, how would you do that? Because people all over the world, either they all fly to the same border town, or we have to put up some weird projection art place in the desert where bands in other countries and other places have to go into their temple to play live. No VR.
It has to be like Xirtus Fest 2026. So if you give yourself a year ahead of time, then you can make it exactly how you want it to be.
Yeah, people care enough to fly out for it. But yeah, I don't know where we do it. South Africa, South America.
Let's do it in the South. Like let's do it in like Texas or New Mexico or some shit.
Or like Louisiana. Although Louisiana, the laws are weird.
Also, I'm just afraid of like if we do it in a place like near the Mississippi and someone gets lost and they get eaten by an alligator or some shit, I would feel bad. Police. Yeah, I'll feel bad. I'll be like, holy shit! Like we could have avoided this if we just didn't.
Yeah, let's do it somewhere safe like Canada. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean BC is nice, but there's bears, but it's all good. I think the desert is smart. Like the
desert's always good. It's true. New Mexico.
Although there's rattlesnakes out there, there's scorpions. You never know.
Burning Man's weirdly safe, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, like that's the other thing. Like all the best festival for a long time was Burning Man, and it's so controlled. It got big enough that the Bureau of Land Management totally controls everything about it, right? I mean, like what can happen and what can't. And I don't know. You have to be careful about how a festival becomes, like we said, a honeypot because everyone there is being, it's like. But I think it's worth it too because part of the idea is it's an exhibition. A festival is an exhibition, an exhibit of new zeitgeist.
It's actually
everyone there is experimenting, and next year that becomes the normative.
Another good idea is to make it like a winter thing, like a winter festival.
Ooh. Because winter Xirtstock, we'll call it, and we'll do it in Woodstock.
Yeah, like a winter conference type deal where it's like everything's cold and you have to bundle up and you have to like find
X-Stock, we'll call it.
Yeah. And like you have to have like heaters and all that shit. Like winter festivals are pretty actually cool if you do it right.
Get rid of the Fed, Duke says. Yeah, all right, fair enough. John says he can fight an alligator. How big of an alligator are you talking, John? Because like if it was a little enough one, I would probably do it too. But
don't people in Florida? Yeah, don't people in Florida like eat alligators?
Oh yeah, it's delicious. Best 88% meat. It's delicious. I love. I mean, I don't know why we're bringing up all the weird animals I've eaten, but I've eaten a lot of alligator in my life. I remember one time in 2000, the year 2000, I think was it 2001? It might have been June of 2001.
No, I was flying. The sacred year of 9/11.
It was before September 11th though. I was flying by myself at 11 years old from Louisiana back to California through Texas. And the entire time I was carrying like 2-3 kilos of alligator meat that I got at an alligator farm in Louisiana that was on ice in a styrofoam cooler. And so it just was me, this like little boy carrying raw flesh everywhere he went. And it was so cool because they used to let you do whatever you wanted in airports.
Yeah.
You know, no one had to like wonder like, does this guy have an organ with him?
Does he have
Why doesn't
alligator
he-
meat?
Why doesn't he have his
Pound.
parents? Yeah, it was great times to be alive back then, you know?
Yeah. No, alligator meat sounds good.
So
I would like
good.
it. Yeah.
You would. Yeah, go to Florida to get some alligator, man. Gator,
The
bro.
weirdest, I think the
Gator
weirdest
done.
meat, yeah, the weirdest meat I've ever had was Pennsylvania turtle in a stew.
Whoa. How was that? I've had
It was-
Ecuadorian turtle.
It was delicious. It was like gummy. You know, it was like gummy
Hmm.
meat. It was almost fishy.
Yeah, yeah. Turtle's underrated, but it makes you feel bad that you're murdering something that can live for 200 years. Basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nuclear says it tastes like chicken. It tastes like the best part of the dark meat of the chicken if it was more juicy. It's legit. I mean, but
Yeah.
you shouldn't go. I always felt bad though doing it at first. So, because like as a kid, I watched Ninja Turtles, and so I figured, oh, that's horrible. You wouldn't want to eat a Ninja Turtle. But then one time I got bit by a turtle in Ecuador, and it wasn't too bad, but it hurt my shoulder. And then there was this girl I saw got bit so hard by a giant turtle in Mancura in Peru. And after that, I didn't mind eating turtles. I think if they could, they would eat you. And that's really when you know. You should-
Actually, wait, maybe that was a lie. I mean, it's not really weird meat because everyone's eating octopus, like seafood. But
Octopus is
One-
great.
when
Yeah.
I was in South Korea, like there was this restaurant. I don't even know if it was a real restaurant, but it was like a house. And you go to the second floor and there was like tables spread out and you sit on the floor. And they put a hot pot in front of you.
Hmm.
And then they like stick a live octopus in the with the ingredients, like the fresh ingredients with the broth, and they just stick the lid over and you watch this live octopus get cooked under the clear lid. And I'm like, as a little kid, I was horrified. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, fair.
But it tasted delicious. I mean, don't get me wrong, it tasted really good.
Squid are gnarly though. Like if you try to bring a Humboldt squid home, or if you put it in a giant fish tank, it'll just stop breathing. It'll just stop its heart, and it will just consciously choose to die. And squid only live 18 months, right? So that's another interesting thing, is that there's such a short lifespan. It's maybe also, I'm comparing it to the dog, like you're in the prime of their life. And the idea that squid are telepathic, or at least because of the chromatophores are able to send data informations, sort of the way your Palm Pilot or your Nintendo Game Boy used to shoot infrared light and you'd play with each other. They can shoot light, and the other thing can understand all the light. And you can probably, we don't know this for sure, but it seems like squid are able to send their memories from one body to the next body. They're substrate independent memory, because they're able to record those memories as a digital pattern and then imprint it on the next squid.
So basically, they're like they're antenna for an alien.
Or they are,
yeah.
or they are like the bodies of light beings. Yeah, like aliens are using these, genetically modified squid
Just
bodies
for surveillance, like they like surveillance cameras for their species. They're just like, oh yeah, we'll just beam in. Look.
Squid have created art projects. They have arrangements of whale bones at the bottom of the sea that squid have put together into interesting patterns, right? So squid are very intelligent. I don't know. I had a vegetarian friend once who I got excited enough to try meat because I told him all my ideas, about how like life works and how you're just, eating vegetables. You're still eating billions of microbes and genociding.
Wait,
He was Jewish.
I got a question. Have you ever eaten an animal alive?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, spiders, and I've had live baby squid, and I'm trying to think what else. Worm. I can't think of too many others, but I've definitely had some living things, and I would do it again for sure.
Yeah. No, because there was this tradition in like Korean kendo. They were like, oh yeah, we go to a restaurant and then we go eat live baby octopus.
Yeah, I love
And then-
that.
Yeah.
It seems weird in your mouth, but it's
Yeah.
I do it.
So what they do is they'll like scoop it up with the chopsticks and wrap it really tight by the leg so it can't move, and then dip it in various sauces and then just like chomp it off. And I'm like, oh, I've never eaten anything alive before. I've never eaten anything that was still moving.
It does move around, which feels
Yeah, but
weird.
I mean, if you're chewing it, if you chew good enough, then like it's
Right.
whatever. But I
Yeah.
think that is kind of like intaking more chi. That's more energy. It's like you just ate like actual.
Oh yeah,
ingested-
fish. I've eaten fish. Like, I don't know if it counts because I killed it as I'm eating it, but there would be a lot of the time you'd kill a fish, clean it instantly while you're eating it.
And then you just take
eat
a
raw.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah, straight up. So what you do is, like, if you catch fish, you're in the water all day and you can't cook it, you take a fish, you put it in the water, you pull it inside out. There's actually a way that you can go in with a knife, twist it, grab the bone, the skeleton of the fish, and turn it in such a way that it turns inside out. You pull it out from the face. You could also do it from the anus. This is the other way to go, and a lot of time that's the easier way to do it. But then it's underwater, and you clean it instantly because it's washing out its organs and everything else like that. You have no more bones left, and then you just eat it, right? And if it's a lake fish, you end up eating the outside skin more often. But if it's an ocean fish, you end up just getting the skin off of it, and you're eating the inside of it. But like perfectly fresh fish is so great.
Yeah. And just so you know, if you're like grossed out by this, just know that like we cook.
People are pretty upset about this conversation. I'm sorry,
well,
guys.
Also, you know, we cook like bottom feeder shellfish, and then we even eat their like shit pretty much. Like we eat the contents of their digestive tract, which is very goopy and tasty. You like lobster? Do you like shellfish?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't eat it all the time. You know, obviously it's kind of weird to eat bugs all the time.
They are bugs. It is eating bugs. What I do like is soft shell crab, where I just like have like a bag of like fried little mini soft shell crabs, and I just like dunk them all in my mouth. And if I have some, like,
you can cut right here at the head, and you can cut right here at the tail. You go through the anus, and you can actually debone from the head side. Is the quickest way if you twist it. Depends on what kind of fish. Some people will argue. But I think that's it's an easier way to do it. And like also fish looks so different. Like if you eat fish right away, it's so colorful. And if you wait a day, it's drained of all its colors. It's why the fish on the wall get painted, you know?
Well, outside of fish, I mean, honestly, like let's be real. Like you don't just have to eat fish raw. You could eat meat raw too. Like if you've had tartare, like I've had veal tartare, which is delicious, like raw deer meat. If you've had beef tartare, like raw cow meat.
Yeah,
I mean,
Ethiopian food. I love the Ethiopian kitfa glub, which is the raw beef they have. Yeah.
What do you, I mean, I've seen like footage where they just like eat straight from like the desert carcass, and I'm like, bro, I mean, I don't know, that doesn't seem right, but
I mean, if something's rotting, I'm probably not as big of a fan. But I do have a book on fermentation from a dude who cured his own AIDS, and it talks all about how the Eskimo. You know, I've eaten fermented fish from Eskimos, from Inuit, I should say. I'm sorry, but you know, I've had a fermented fish. It tastes like cheese. The bones turn into like a cheese, like they start to ferment. It's crazy. So it's good for you sometimes.
You mentioned that, and I think that was like you bring up like. You remind me of like one of the smartest things Cat Williams has ever said. He was like, you know, back in the day, all the ancient civilizations, if they had an abundance of something, they were able to cultivate it into something greater. Like if you had too much milk,
sure.
If you had too many grapes, if you had too many potatoes, you could make like vodka, cheese, and like wine. You know, like you could make like spirits, and you can make like condensed versions of like your abundance.
So what can they do with YouTubers and OnlyFans models? I mean, how do we
fuck, like literally just extended life, like soul life. Like if you're able to tap into that, you just learn from their mistakes, and you're like, damn, I could live longer just by doing what you don't do.
God, right. But I also think like I for a while I was a vegetarian, I was a vegan, and I felt really good while that was happening. I didn't feel bad about it. You know, like I think I got to a point where I did need meat, and that's why I used to go like 6 months not eat any meat, be an orthorexic vegan. Orthorexia is where you only eat perfect food, orthos, right? And I got to a point where then I would go get the Ethiopian raw meat, and that's something that Ethiopians did usually once a year. They drink the blood of a freshly killed goat and eat some meat, and that's the only meat they got. For the rest of the year, they're vegetarians. So that appealed to me, and I used to feel like a cheetah. You know, I'd go in with a friend of mine who was a law student at Hastings, and we'd eat all this, and we just feel like crazy energy from like eating like a predatorial animal, essentially.
I mean, it's definitely all energy based. Actually, full disclosure, you know, I knew this because I was journaling, and I'm like a devout journaler now for like a little while, and it was fairly recent, but I mentioned it because I was writing about it, and I was like, semen retention is not a thing like I religiously practice, but I was just seeing like how long I could go. And like I'm on like my 120th day.
I feel bad for anybody who was like, oh man, I didn't want to hear about brains and eating living beings, and now we get to semen retention, but good for you. No, keep going. You've gone more than that's like 4 months almost, right?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
120 days. I didn't think I could, I wasn't trying to like break a streak. I was just like, let's just see it.
That's more difficult than people realize, because often what happens is you have nocturnal discharge. So
Yeah.
if you're able to keep that from happening, that's also. Are you counting that or not counting that?
No, I'm not. I am counting that. I do.
Okay.
I just know like nothing, and it's
Full
like
on, yeah.
yeah. So I feel like I always joke. I'm like I could see like 5 seconds into the future.
Could be. I mean, there's definitely huge amounts of Kundalini energy that comes from this. No pun intended. But I also think you should be careful about.
I know you're right. You're right. I mean, I am trying to like not.
What do they call that? They say that it can lead. I don't know. It's not health advice, but right, like people
like
say
short
that
circuiting, like pretty much.
No, they say that you can get like a kind of cancer. I don't know if this is true. I'm not trying to give medical advice, but I've heard that it's like you don't want to have prostate cancer, and some people have equated it with not ejaculating enough. And I could be completely wrong, and I don't want to get in trouble on YouTube for thinking that. I'm sorry, but I thought I heard that. I don't know. I'll look into it more before I talk about it more. I guess that's fair.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, what got me into it was like what fucking made me win that martial arts tournament. I was like, yo, Mike Tyson would practice it, and Nikola Tesla was also like a guy who promoted it.
Just let me not get in trouble. I'll just say there's no evidence that sexual activity, including masturbation, causes prostate cancer. In fact, frequent ejaculation has been linked to lower chances of prostate cancer. Okay, so I just wanted to say that has been WebMD'd. Okay, there is some evidence there that you're better off ejaculating more than less if you're concerned about prostate cancer.
No. Honestly, it only came up because recently, like, I don't know, it was a weird moment where it's like I was just working on my own shit. It's like I was like, because when you go through it, like when you make a committed effort to just go through something like that, you're like, all right, why do I do the things I do? Why do I go out to bars? Why do I go out to drink? Why do I go out to party?
Why do I keep doing this? Yeah.
The hopes that I go out as a single dude to just meet some girl and then get laid. Well, what if like that wasn't your shit? Like, what if you didn't care about that at all? Then what are you going to do with your time? And I ended up doing like way more productive things with my time. So that's what made me like realize like, oh, it is like a different prerogative if you turn that switch to a different setting, like, because if you don't commit to that kind of thing, you're just like, okay, so I'm going to do whatever I do. And you're always going to have that bug in the back of your brain and say, oh, what if I could hit on this girl? Or what if I could fuck that girl? Or what if I could do this with that girl? Like once you turn that off, you're like, all right, now what are you going to do with that energy? What are you going to do with that chi? It's like, and it turns out like most of the time you end up doing something a lot more creative, a lot more productive. And, like if anything, a lot more peaceful, like a lot more, I don't know, like a lot more, what should I say? Harmonized. Yeah. Harmonized with like reality, I guess, around you. You're less about like, getting yours. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to get mine from this person. And you're more about like, I already have it, like I'm already good. I realize that now it's like what I'm willing to offer because I know what it's worth. Like I know. Like,
obligatory shot of Seth Green wearing a pizza party t-shirt with a man behind him. He's calling his twin brother.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Seth Green in a long minute, man.
I've been wondering what he's gonna say. Like, it's weird. I just followed him because Michelle Trachtenberg died, and I'm like, I mean, every other celebrity who knew her pretty well, and I remember he co-produced a film with her a few years ago.
And he's just like, "Nah, I'm cool with it." Yeah, she was a bitch, bro. You don't even know.
I mean, like, well, I just you don't want to just be like accusing celebrities of knowing more or having anything to do with anything, but the dude's got a pizza party shirt. I can speculate,
Yeah.
Just like right there, bro. And he hasn't said anything. Every other celebrity, like Willow, whatever, How I Met Your Mother lady.
All right, so I hate to say it, but I think like Jackie Chan is gonna be the next one to go.
Aww, you think so?
Yeah, he's gonna die soon. I'm sorry, guys, for all you fans of the Tuxedo and the Medallion and the Rush Hour movies. Like he's gonna die. Your favorite,
bro. Everybody dies sometime. It could be Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan's gonna die soon. I'm calling it. He's been around too long, and he made too many deals with too many devils. Like he's gonna be gone soon. I'm sorry, guys.
God, Elizabeth Waldo, the actress, is 105 years old and still alive.
I'm sorry,
think-
but
These are
Jackie
the things
Chan,
I think about.
Jackie Chan is gonna die before Elizabeth Waldo. I'm sorry, guys, and it's gonna be fucked up. We're all gonna be sad, and I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna work with you guys, and we're all gonna like go through this together. But Jackie Chan's gonna die next.
You know who else could die is Clint Eastwood. I hate doing this. We shouldn't be doing this. This is really wrong. Clint Eastwood is 92 right now. He's almost 93. I think 93 is a good thelema. Oh no, it's cursed. It's cursed, bro. A picture of him with Gene Hackman. Oh
No, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Clint Eastwood is never gonna die. He's just got too much access to too much adrenochrome. Like this guy,
what about Mel Brooks? Same thing. You think Mel Brooks is gonna live forever too?
is he still
He's-
alive?
He's 96, bro. He's 96 and he's doing good. You know?
Is he
Yeah.
still funny at least? Like if you give him a microphone, like would he make people laugh?
I mean, I think he's funny like Stefan. Yeah, I think he's hilarious. He's also
Okay.
shout out Yoga Poser. Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke is also, what's he, like 96, 95, 96? He's like 96 too. And he said recently, he's like, God has forsaken me. He won't let me die. I keep wanting to die. It's freaking hilarious, honestly. I think, yeah, there's a lot of people that are probably on their way outs, man. You know who I'm worried about? Oh my God, what's his name? Short Circuit, the Indian actor from Short Circuit who's Jewish. He's not really. He's like Silvers or what's his name? Fisher Stevens. Fisher Stevens. I don't know. Hey, shout out if you know Fisher Stevens. I'd love to talk to him. I don't know what. I've seen a lot of his movies. Decided I really like Fisher Stevens as a character actor, but I worry about this guy now because I do this thing where, like I said, I watch a bunch of somebody's movies and then they die. And so I just want to put out some prayers for Fisher Stevens. I hope that you're fine. You know, I did the same thing with Larry, was it Larry Miller? David Miller? What was it? I forget. Something like that.
Yeah.
Richard Lewis, something like that.
Honestly,
Who died?
you know
Richard
who I-
Lewis. I watched all of Richard Lewis's television series the week before he died. That was hard for me.
I pray for all the Christian and the Catholic actors. Like they always seem to meet some untimely demise. You know, like the ones like who
Yeah.
believe in Jesus or God. Like they're always that Hollywood figures that always like get the shit end of the stick. Like, oh really? All right. I
Yeah,
guess
was
it's
his
very good.
who was the guy who played Shrek originally who died? You know, the fat actor down by the river. Matt Foley, character played by Chris Farley. Chris Farley, I'm sorry. Chris Farley was a good Christian man. Hold on, Chris Farley, Boys Club. I think that's the right one, right? He used to take care of kids. He was a Catholic. Catholic? Do I have to do that? Will that help? He
Yeah.
was a really, everyone acts like he's just this horrible drug addict. And yeah, I'm sure he did some cocaine, but
Yeah.
Super Bowl, baby. Guys who died on Super Bowl who he helped with the what's that program? Is it called the Boys Club or Boys to Men, or is it the YMCA? What's that thing where like the Big Brothers or something for like orphans and kids?
Big Brother sounds about right. Yeah.
Brother, I forget. He was one of those. He used to help like kids who were going through a lot and be their mentor and things like that. And he went to church all the time and he died in the most traumatic and horrifying way. A lot of these Christians do seem to have untimely deaths. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems pretty targeted and
The Boys and Girls Club. Thank you, not joking. Yeah, the Boys and Girls Club. He was a major boys, not the Boys Town. He wasn't part of the pedo gate. He was part of the actually good guy thing. That was what was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of fucked up. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I would always make a note of any figure in Hollywood, like the Christianity and Jesus, and I'm like, all right, let's see how long you last, because the industry seems always targeted on damaging those people. Like let's just pray to God, let's go to church and whatever, and the industry has some way of like dissecting them and ruining them, and I don't know. Maybe I'm being paranoid. I'm not even like directly identifying as any kind of Christian faith, but I'm just saying like it's something I've noticed,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, I think a lot of the time suffering happens you know, like that's kind of the thing. And Christians, maybe they're attracted. This might be wrong, but I think it's possible that people that obsess over the idea of someone who's crucified and sacrificed everything and tortured and died in an unfair way, that might be like, you should be careful about that, you know, because that might affect your life.
Well,
If you're
it's
trying to
also,
be like that person.
yeah, Nietzschean terms, that's slave morality. You know, like you're basically you're making a virtue out of weakness and defeat. You know, like you can't do that. That leads to resentment, and it's no good for at least male-bodied people. Can't think like that.
Oh, my mom just asked me if her name.com was available. And I was like, of course it's not. What does that even mean? Like, you had your chance in 1996 when we suggested this. I don't know.
No, all right. I still got some questions for you though.
All right. We got a few more, yeah.
All right. My questions are: what is your least favorite food?
My least favorite food is probably sweet fruits.
You're all right. So you're more of a salty kind of like savory guy.
Savory, vinegar, bitters, things like that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's because you just have refined tastes. Do you ever feel like you're like an old soul?
Yeah. But I think everyone is, honestly. If I really were to think about it, I think a lot of people might be first-time humans, though. But I think that for the most part, I believe all intelligences have existed since before God. I don't think God created us. I think God manipulated and transmuted our intelligences into beings. But that intelligences are like a space-time sea foam that existed and at some point became gods and became men, and you know, everything is, but that these are already existent, and so all souls have always existed, essentially all intelligences, and it's part of the process.
Or like a cycle, like a wheel?
I think it's like a wheel, but I also think it's like there is an actual elevating or uplifting ascension thing that's happening. So that, you know, I think like Mormonism, like I think men die, like gods die so that men can live, so that men can die, so that men can become gods. I think that there's a level of that where we expand on intelligence and we process everything on our way for, I believe in a sort of Teilhard Chardinian evolution of spirit towards an omega point. I always have, guilty, you know.
Yeah.
Like I think that the omega point is the God at the beginning, because once we hit the singularity, we're outside of time. And that's what we're defining God as, is this omnipotent, all-knowing being outside of time. So it's at the end and at the beginning, alpha and the omega, right?
Yeah. So that's the ideal outcome, where it's like we're pretty much being guided as a metaphysical and physical entity just to this outcome where it's like, all right, it eventually gets to this post problem. But the only thing is, it's like, why
Was I an old soul? Was I Cleopatra?
also they have to have, like, I'm just scared, like once we get to a point post singularity, it's like, what kind of problems are they dealing with that are so existential beyond what you or I could ever conceive of?
So the first thing is that if it's beyond time, then you can go to any moment in time, because all time will exist in the singularity.
So
and
what
so then
problem?
any continuity. So like, let's say like I'm worried, let's say it's you and you're worried about things now that you're outside of time. Well, maybe you would worry about your family lineage and go back in time and try to produce miracles to protect and uplift your ancestors, right? It might
Sure.
be that the guardian angels are us in the outside of time singularity.
So abuse of power. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's abuse of power. I mean, because the thing is, we all are a family, and if you go back far enough, we're all pretty closely related. And you know, it might be this thing where the singularity wants to protect itself, so it protects Adam and Eve. I mean, that's like reductionist, but it could be that that's a big part of what those problems become.
So it ultimately ends up as not really a cycle, but more like a spiral.
Yeah, I think it's like also you can change the present. So you're like, what if we went back and did this? Then the present's changed now, you know? So you have to be very careful about what actions happen, what you permit to exist and not to exist. And if everything is hyper realizable, then you could have parallel realities. but really continuity leads to a singularity based on certain rules and ranges of opportunity. So you have to be careful about what you allow to happen. You might be able to go back in time and say, you know, if we did this in our past, then humans could fly now. And then all of a sudden we can fly now. It might be as simple as that, that everything, any idea you have can instantly be executed in the past. So it's, as soon as you think of it, it's already happened. It's like the Bill and Ted time travel scenario. I think that could be a thing we have to be very careful about, because you could use anybody, if you live in a world where everyone's in Nietzsche and Übermensch that can realize any potential, they can kill everyone as much as they can create everything. And I think that's another reason why we're moving. I think we talked about this before, that humanity is, like Nietzsche said, humanity is a tightrope between the Untermensch and the Übermensch, and between the ape and the man, you could even say, and that we're going to hit a point of the last man. There's going to be a point where
I think there's
man will stop existing the way we think of them.
There is a counterpoint, which I agree with. I agree with Nietzsche about a lot of things with the whole like Übermensch dynamic, where eventually like there will be the last man and there will be the Übermensch. You know, people who just want to self-actualize. It doesn't even take. It doesn't even have to be like a male figure. It could be anyone who has the drive, the will to power. That is what the Übermensch describes. But, and I agree that, you know, like in contrast to that, there's the obvious last man who's just like, no, I just want to, and it's a tragic story for them, so we don't even have to get into that. But there's that's not the real counterpoint to the Übermensch. The real counterpoint to the Übermensch is Kierkegaard's Knight of Faith. You know, that's the real like actual odds, you know, because both parties are essentially angling for the same thing, except one like they both have different sources. Whereas the Übermensch is essentially like such a hardline materialist where even God comes within their power. Whereas the Knight of Faith is more like everything is God, including myself, including you, including everything I hate, including everything I love. So it feels infinitely connected with everything. It's literally like Jedi and Sith, if you think about it. Like the Sith are like the Übermensch, and the Jedi are like the Knights of Faith. And you know, I think that's what Lucas was probably thinking, which is why when Epstein was like, don't invite George Lucas, he's just going to be a nerd about everything and he's going to ruin the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think George Lucas would have fit in very well. That's an interesting point. He had a lot of already existing prejudice about the elite, and like that's obvious to Star Wars. It's amazing how much people hated the prequels because of how accurate they are to what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's exactly, you mean like, why would George Lucas make a show about a trade federation that's having a problem with the Republic, and what the heck's all that about? You know, that's just so out in left field.
Yeah,
it's like all starring Southeast Asians too. Like the Trade Federation's all literally.
Yeah. But I do see though, within like you have like the people, like the people angling for the Knight of Faith philosophy, and they don't see anything but the Knights of Faith and not Knights of Faith. And you have people angling for the Übermensch who only see like the Übermensch and the Untermensch. You know,
people hate Jar Jar. People hate what they do not understand.
Yeah. But what happens when like the Übermensch and the Knights of Faith develop, where they ultimately Faith dealt with the heathens and the atheists, the Übermensch dealt with all the Untermensches, and then they ascended, and now they have to contend with each other.
So I think Untermensch are going to become mechanistic. So more and more AI makes more sense to me, like automatons and things that just do. If you train somebody to respond to stimuli a certain way, you civilize people enough, you're going to turn them all into Untermenschian automatons, where you know exactly how they respond to stimuli. You can provoke any response, because if you do this, they do that. If they do
like
this,
circuit boards.
Like a circuit, it's like religious though. It's moral. It's a moral thing. If a woman stands up, then the men must stand up until she leaves the table. Etiquette is Untermenschian. It's completely it's automatic. It's not self-realized. It's not self-aware. It's not innovative. It's completely based on redundancy and, like you said, circuitry.
So then I would argue
it's reactionary.
So I would argue, well, it's not even an argument. It's just as an offer of compromise, of contrast. I would say that's the Übermensch would just be animalistic, like a Viking. It's like he would just throw the glass on the ground and just eat whatever with his hands. Whereas the Knight of Faith would be like, despite the woman holding up the Knight of Faith, it's like, all right, I shouldn't even be eating right now. I've already eaten once a day. It's like goodbye. I shouldn't even be here.
So I think Nietzsche does Nietzsche explores arguments. Nietzsche's like South Park. Nietzsche, like a South Park episode, will take something to its most extreme possible conclusion
Yeah.
to pervert it as a joke. And you're like, well, now you got everybody cutting off their dicks and getting, becoming black, transracial, and so they'll take it to an extreme place, right? Nietzsche did the same thing with the Ubermensch, and he was doing it because he was talking about Christianity, and he was trying to say that Christianity was a oppressive, and it's true to an extent. In the 19th century, religion had become in the West a very oppressive tool of the state, which was ironic if you studied Christianity, because the whole point was that Yeshua was kind of anti-state. He was saying there's problems with the state, problems with Rome, render unto Caesar what actually belongs to Caesar, right? There's something bigger going on here. And this led to a revolution and a bunch of Christians living in sewers underground, and eventually riots in the streets that lead to Constantinian Christianity, and then crusades, and then we're back to the religions being in charge, controlling people. So he could see that there were benefits to Christianity, because it's not that it just created this authoritarian state. The authoritarian state always existed, but with religion it continued. But what Christianity did provide that Nietzsche thought was really fascinating was the search for truth. Science is a outgrowth of Christianity.
Yeah.
Science, the way we understand it, is the search for truth, because truth, we at the time were thinking,
search for illumination.
yeah, because like at one point the Greeks and the Jewish Greeks thought of God as Zeus, this rapist who deceived people, and then Neoplatonists said, no, that's not good. God should be a nice guy. Let's make a God that doesn't rape people. Let's make a nice God. And that was very confusing, because you had the old God that people understood and this new God and the Jesus emerging time. So the Marcians were like, well, there must be two gods. There must be the old, angry, jealous God. And then there's this like new age God who's made of love that's happening. And Christianity emphasized that point until they said there never was an old, angry, jealous God. There was always only this loving God. And you know what? We don't even know what that means. So we should start looking at the stars with telescopes and looking at math and trying to find out the divine truth. And this is all simultaneous to the Islamics, who are saying God is formless, God is shapeless. Well, then if God's not form or shape, then what is God? And so the Neoplatonic concepts became the search for truth, which became science, right? So Nietzsche saw the benefit of that as well, but he was concerned a lot about religion.
I think when it comes down to it, it's like Nietzsche, probably out of anyone, understood Jesus as an Ubermensch, compared to like Job. Job was more of like the knight of faith, right? Like Job was the guy who was like, yeah, like I'll take it, whatever. And the knight of faith, that's what he does. The knight of faith is most like, hey, this is what I know is right, and therefore I will take it. I will turn the other cheek. I will do whatever I have to, follow 10 commandments. Whereas the Ubermensch is like, fuck that shit. Look at the people suffering. We could do something about this right now. And that's what Jesus was about. So Jesus,
go ahead.
No, what were you saying? Yeah. I think Jesus was an Ubermensch, like, whereas, guys like Job was like a knight of faith. Or
we should get David on from Think Tank at some point to talk with you about Jewish comedy, because the idea that when Moses breaks one of the 10 commandments, that's hysterical to Jews in ancient times. That's a joke, like, oh, he didn't have all the good. Yeah, and like Moses is hilarious, but Job is even more hysterical, because Job is a victim of circumstance.
Yeah,
right. And any good shtick, you got to have a guy slip on a banana peel, and he's like, "Why is this banana peel here?" And like, if there's, God forbid, there's a fresh banana in the banana peel, because he slips, he falls, he breaks his ankle, he rips his jeans, and now there's a wasted banana, and the waste is like a bigger issue. So Job is the story of a victim of circumstance, and nature itself is fighting itself. Nature is God versus the devil at that point, is the Machina versus the Meta. The Meta is God, and the machinery are the angels. And they're saying, this guy, he's only, doing what he's doing because he's benefited by it. Watch what happens if the whole world collapses around him. But that's just nature. Nature collapses around you. Things happen to people. So Job is showing that like kind of Buddhist surrendering, where you're like, you know what? Maybe I should start taking the consequences of, negative things happening to me as a personal offense. And then God's like, don't you dare. Don't you dare. You need to remember how little and insignificant you are, really. Because right now, and he takes Job and he shows him like the world. He's like, you know what? Shut up. If you're about to seriously doubt me, shut up. get in my arms. I'm going to show you the world. And he flies Job over everything. He shows him the Leviathans. He shows him the sandstorms. He shows him how fires in forests breathe new life into nature and gives smaller birds opportunities to escape these, trees. Like everything that he's showing them is the ecosystem and how life begets death begets life. And don't think of yourself as the center of the attention of the spectacle, right? Just go through it. So there's something really beautiful, I think, in almost Eastern about the Job story from that way. Jesus might be considered an Ubermensch, but only the true Jesus. And I don't know what that means, right? Because it's like my own personal Jesus is the true Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Nietzsche had a perspective, clearly. And his idea was that Christianity today is like a Che Guevara t-shirt. It has nothing to do, you know what I mean? It has nothing to do with the original intention. And Yeshua was this guy who wore dreadlocks and was saying, hey, society is collapsing and you need to be autonomous and sustaining. But there's a difference between being the animalistic brutalist and an Ubermensch, because the animalistic Ubermensch is also an automata. The brutalist is an animalistic carnal reactionary being. You're reacting to what your body's going through and what your body's wanting. So you're like, well, I felt like this, so I was hungry, so I killed those animals.
I felt angry, so I killed that dude.
Yeah, and like an Ubermensch, I think, would probably be, in my opinion, a bit more post-nihilist. So it's like, I think you should be a less reactionary.
Well, no one wants to kill this guy, but if I kill this guy, then everything will be simpler.
Well, I think it should be more like, why am I making my choice? So let's say that somebody's bothering you, and an Untermensch would want to kill the person that's bothering them. An Ubermensch has to be unbothered. You can be irritated to an extent. You can be aware. But you should be unbothered. You should be able to be unbothered enough that you're not reacting. You're not reacting. You're acting. You have to not act long enough that when you're out of a still place, you choose your actions, right? And if your actions are your own and they're not provoked by anyone else, they belong to you. They're your choice. You're the king. You're the sovereign.
Yeah.
And that's a rare state. That's an unnatural state in nature. Because in nature, you are the product and the reaction of nature.
Reactionary, yeah.
But humans love the idea of becoming a king and designing a garden and manscaping and eventually having control over nature, right? And I think that is the end of humanity when that happens.
Yeah.
That is because, like, at that point, then you are a god because you have control over your surroundings and everything else.
And
maybe not a god in the, but
the universe just becomes a big resource farm at that point.
Yeah, it changes everything about what we are, and that's the last man.
So here's how to temper it. I think, like, if you're poor, like if you're in a low, like a social class, or if you're in down in the dumps, you're an addict, then you should subscribe to the Nietzschean Ubermensch model. However, if you're born privileged, if you're born with a lot of resources, if you have a lot, if you're a millionaire, then you should subscribe more to the ultimate Untermensch, like, theory, where it's like you're the knight of faith. You subscribe to the God and the greater good. Like, you have a choice, and the fact that you as a single being could choose either one when your life is going terribly, be the Ubermensch. Do what you have to do to fucking survive and succeed. Then when life is going good, give it up. Give up free will. Trust God. Trust the higher forces. Trust divine will. Trust Jesus. Why not? Jesus is cool. Do it. Like, I think when you cross those wires where people's lives are going terribly and they end up blaming God, and when people's lives are going great, they end up just crediting themselves and not God. Like, that's when shit gets fucking like awful.
Yeah, Not Joe King says, Andreas, would you be able to argue in favor of Christianity against atheists? I didn't see that part, so it changes my answer instantly. I thought you were just saying against other beliefs, but yeah. Let me read it again. Would have you been able to argue in favor of Christianity against atheist beliefs in a debate using 75% biblical scripture? I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd be great at that. That seems like atheism is a pretty easy thing to debunk, and it has a lot of consequentialist flaws. There's a reason why atheism isn't accurate. However, I do think that de-anthropomorphic God, looking at God as something more than a single parent who writes books You know, I think I think that we have a lot of Christianity is bastardized on purpose to become a controlling religious a tool for controlling people. That doesn't mean that has, I think there's still a lot of truth in Christianity and in the Bible, but I think that it's easy to see how people have manipulated Christianity. That's what Nietzsche was talking about. I think I think it's important. I think anybody who's an atheist needs to read the Bible, but I also think that a lot of these Bible Christians that are, you know, they probably should read a little Nietzsche too. You know, there's probably something that's crosses back and forth. But I don't believe in atheism. I just think that I really don't believe in atheists. I mean, there are a few people out there that I've met who are religious atheists, and I can understand that. Like, if you just choose to believe in stuff and you choose to believe in nothing, you know, that's to me a crazy, amazing amount of faith. To believe in nothing, especially if you are educated. Like, a lot of these atheists went to school. So how you could be so smart and stupid at the same time fascinates me. Like, how can you know, to be an atheist, it's like cognitive dissonance and cognitive bias. It's incredibly dumb. But at the same time, it's like, if you went to school and you studied science, don't you believe that the probability, if you believe in space, you know, a lot of atheists believe in space. Don't you believe in the probability of evolution to the point that there would be some sort of a super being? I mean, duh, isn't that like part of your mathematical Drake equation probability? So I just don't understand how atheists are real, you know, not really.
You're right. I think knowledge comes with time, but wisdom comes with like certain phases and experiences. So
Intuition,
like, No, like I've known, and it's weird how I ran into these people, but they were like, I've known intelligent people who were successful in their material fields. Like, they made a lot of money at their jobs, but they were like severe alcoholics. And so they were never religious, but they go to AA and they end up believing in God. And because they realize on a logical basis, not even on a faith-based thing, they just realize, like, they put 2 and 2 together, like mechanically, this is not going to work unless I actually believe in the thing, which is the higher power. And like, you know, that tells me something, you know, like that tells me just how much freedom we have. And what that tells me is not that we're not slaves of God. We are literally, we all have that divine spark. It's, if you choose,
I'm going to annoy some people by quoting Einstein, and I'm not saying he's like a real smart guy or anything. I'm just saying I thought this was a fascinating quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I remember when Elon Musk essentially said something like this to the Babylon Bee Mormons, or some of these Mormons who interviewed him. And so Einstein said this: I believe in Spinoza's God. Right. And people think that I do this to myself. I believe in Spinoza's God. And I think that's interesting because people might say Spinoza was an atheist, but that's a farce. That is completely false. His idea of God was probably as ancient and Jewish as God could be described, but it was not Deuteronomist. And the Deuteronomists have turned God into this, you know, this human. I think a big problem is we know that God is in the image of. That's the problem. We know man's in the image of God. For whatever reason, people think it works the other way around. For a lot of people, it's that God is in the image of man. And that's dangerous. You shouldn't do that, in my opinion. I don't think that that's right. I think anthropomorphic understanding is very limiting. There's practical reasons you might want to understand the love of a father and how that relates to God. But generally, you want to see how you are like the universe, not the other way around.
How the universe is like you.
Not why God is like you, right? And so I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the lawful harmony of the world. Lawful harmony of the world, not in a God who concerns himself with the fate and doings of mankind, right?
The reason why it's better to think how you are like God as opposed to how God is like you is because when you think about how you are like God, you think about how everyone else is like God. Even the people who wronged you, even the people who did terrible things to you, even the people who did great things to you and loving acts towards you, like everyone.
And you're putting limits on God in a weird way because you're like, well, what are my limits? That I'm the canvas that God is using. So what if God is a canvas? And it's like, you're missing something there.
Yeah, which is the hardest part about all of it. I mean, honestly, it's like I put myself in like these people's shoes and I'm like, how can I believe in God? And like,
holy crap, Brain Wizard's asking if I'm a painter. Can you calm down, bro? Like, you've asked this question 40, 50 times now. I don't know. It's freaking me out. And yes, when I was in Austria, I did paint pictures of dogs. All right. Is that what you want to know? Leave me alone. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
I mean, if I had to paint, I would honestly want to paint pictures of cats.
Fair. Do you like the Lois? What's it called? Lois crazy cat art. What's his name? Lewis Wayne. You know what I'm talking about? Lewis Wayne. Do you ever study Lewis Wayne?
I don't know, but his work looks fucking.
Lewis Wayne is crazy. So, I mean, literally, he was actually insane. But what he did was he drew pictures in the insane asylum. As the years went on, they just got cooler and cooler and cooler. So, like, you can see, like, his earlier pictures of cats look like cats. Like, here's a normal Lewis Wayne cat, right? Pretty reasonable. But then, here's like after he's been nothing but cat
like
smelling.
10 years later.
Yeah, dude, it just gets nuts. At a certain point, you're like, bro, you need to stop electrocuting that brain so hard. I love some of these ones, honestly. This guy, I mean, God, Lewis Wayne, man.
Well, cats are weird. Let's admit that. Cats are strange creatures. I'm a cat owner, and I could say, like, cats are strange. They have some weird mystical properties about them.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone.
Yeah. Well, that's also another thing. Like, a lot of people, I mean, there is that argument, like, why do you expect aliens to just look anything like us? But I think on a certain level, like, when you have, like, just this optimal thing, like, as far as space-time in our dimension, like, I think you would have intelligent aliens looking something like us, like an upright thing. Because space-time works the way space-time does. However, in other dimensions, like in a light-based or a sound-based, I don't know, dimension, maybe you'd have intelligences that are just made of pure light or pure sound.
Yeah, it might be that you only pick up on certain things, like certain kinds of antennae and sensors exist in order to understand sound, which you can't. Sound doesn't have the same vibratory radiation that light does. It's similar in spectrum, though. So you're literally feeling with your eardrums sound, and you're seeing light. You're touching with your eardrums, and you're touching with your photons. And so it's interesting to think about how we're taking these different senses of touch and trying to make, sound or sight or something like that. These are completely weird ideas that shouldn't come out of touch senses, but they do. That's what we have.
And what probably connects them all is the fact that, like, I don't know, it's source. It's the law of one and all that shit. Like with the whole experiments with Ra and all that stuff. It's really, I mean, whether you're in like advanced metaphysics, whether you're in like new age spirituality groups, whether you're in old school Buddhism, like, it all comes to the same conclusion where it's like it's all coming to one source. And I think, like, that's what people are contending with, and we're kind of slowly coming together, like, towards that. It's just obviously there are, like, interests that would rather keep everything divided. I mean, a part of me would rather keep it divided. That's how we have culture. That's how we have, like, nuanced things about culture and, individuality. But, a higher part of me knows that, yeah, there is probably just one source behind it all.
Dude, what happens? You know what I mean? Like, whoa. It's crazy to see this guy go from, like, slippery slope, from normal cats to creepy cats to dancing musician cats to cat lovers to ceramic monuments to futurism of brutalism and cats, and then to the psychedelic period where it's just like you can actually see that he sees light. He's seeing in between the matter, and he's actually seeing the being without seeing the cat itself.
Wait, can you turn to the earlier stages?
Yeah. Check out his earliest stuff.
So this
reasonable.
This is where I think he thinks of the concept of cats, like the mind of, like, the idea of cats. Now go down one more.
Okay, hold on. We're back here, and then here's the dogs, and
yeah,
the
dogs.
dogs.
This is all mental, right? This is it's slowly shifting to the physical. Now he goes from, like, the mental concept of cats to, like, the physical aspect of cats. This is why he draws them in different perspectives. And then once he goes from the mental concept of cats to the physical perspective of cats, then he goes into the spiritual aspect of cats.
Dude, owls, all these owls watching these scared cats. Yeah, for sure. The emotions of cats.
Yeah.
And then cat love. I think cat love's winning.
I got a scared cat on my lap right now. Like, look at this guy.
Oh, hold on. Wait, there we go.
Yeah,
You look
he's
like you'd be a great Louis Wayne painting. We could paint you, bro. We should get a
Yeah.
photo of him and put him through a Louis Wayne AI filter. See what
Yeah.
happens.
This guy's my best friend. He's my best bud. He's always with me. Just
Adorable.
out of the scenes.
What's your cat's name?
Mochi.
Oh, that's good. Mochi.
No. I do believe in mystical properties of cats. I mean, I didn't understand it. It's just the only reason why I have a cat now is because I used to live with this girl and we got a cat together and we broke up and I was like, I'm taking the cat. All right, he likes me. And you know, she knew. She was like, yeah, the cat does like you better. So
Aw, brutal. Man, it sucks to be a bad mother, doesn't it? I can imagine this.
Oh no, it's not like that. I mean, maybe it
I'm
is.
just
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, like,
You're like, I wasn't cut out for this. Just raise him right.
yeah, it's just he's a cool guy. And well, I'm actually worried because like my cat's a clingy little dude. And I heard like, you know, I'd say, oh, I wish my cat was clingy, but I don't know. Like, what if I died? You know, like I don't want the cat to, you know, be dead in the water without me. I want him to at least like live some kind of life without me.
That's cool. I like that you care about other people and cats and other beings, care
No,
about
no,
their
what I
going
care about, any living thing that relies on me to survive, because that's like I feel bad. It's like, damn it, this is why I don't make relationships so easy. I don't want to be in that position. I don't ever want to be in
Wow.
a position where someone has to rely on me to survive. But this little fucker, relies on me to be happy and survive. So I have to provide. But this is why I don't want kids. I'm like, damn, I gotta give all this energy to make sure this child is happy. But
I think it'd be good for you. Of all people I know, I think you'd be really good at it. And it would be, a lot of people I know, when they got a pet, they started going for walks because they're like, my pet needs exercise. Like people get better diets because they're like, my kids need to eat healthily. And I think you're the kind of person like that, where you take a good care of yourself and you're trying to do the right thing, but you need the justification. And if you were to take care of other people and that were to help you out, that you would do that much more easier than I think you feel guilty about taking care of yourself as much as you want to take care of other people and other things.
maybe,
If you had the
probably.
justification, like you're like, okay, well, I'm taking care of my cat needs to eat, I might as well eat. You might forget to eat without a cat. I'm not saying that's exactly true, but a lot of the time people are like that.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I think kids might make you as much as they might make other people selfless, they might make you take care of yourself better too.
yeah, I'm just saying, like, I know what it's like to go from like place to place, and I've never had to live with like a living thing relying on me to live. And I'm like, God damn it, and I mean, not just live, but also to be happy, not just surviving and like eating from a tube. But I want my cat, I want this cat at least, because I had him since he was a little baby, like a little baby kitten. And I have to make sure that at least,
Ooh, piano gigger. Ex-wife wanted a dog. Dog crapped on the floor while I was at work. Ex-wife doesn't want to clean it up and wants to take the dog to the pound where they're going to put it to sleep. That is what you call false care. Yeah. Not all women are great. Not all are bad either. I'm just
I mean, don't get me wrong. If the cat liked her more, I would be like, yeah, take the fucking cat.
Yeah.
I get it. It's
but it didn't.
It's not about me, and that's the important thing. Like, because I don't know. You know what? All right, I'm just gonna be real. Like, I was a child of divorced parents, so I get it, and I understand.
That screws people up, and I feel so bad about that because it's like it makes you feel like, well, I can't do it if they couldn't do it, and it's like, really, you're a pretty different guy than your dad,
Of course, yeah.
And you could probably find a woman that was different than your mom,
No, but I could also.
You could probably make it work,
No, but I could also empathize. Like, I wouldn't ever want a living thing that relied on me in the first place, whether I was in a relationship or not.
Did you feel like you felt like they weren't reliable enough for you?
Of course,
as a child?
like any kid that has divorced parents would feel like, oh, what the fuck? Like you guys are fucking me up right now. Like
and you're broken.
Yeah. So the least I could do, and the cats are simpler than me, so at least I could make him like, I don't know. Like,
do you think there's a way for divorced parents to be able to healthfully raise a kid still? Like, can you do things?
Yeah, I think I have faith, and you know what? How about this? I don't even think parents are necessary to successfully. I think a state could successfully raise a kid.
Totally. I've known orphans that do it great. Yeah.
I think wolves could successfully raise a kid. I think it's
probably
really
better than most people. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a crapshoot like that. Like, you know, as weird as it sounds, I don't think like a stable, like man, woman, atomized family is necessary to. I think it's a crapshoot. Like, it depends on the genetics. It depends on the right environments, the right time, and the right context of history. Like, you never know. Like, like weird shit happens like that. I mean, I don't recommend it. Like, I don't think you should just send your baby into the woods to be raised by animals and hope for the best. Like, weird shit happens, right?
It's interesting because there's the Mind Unveiled, God, his whole thing on Cabbage Patch Babies, and you know, if you've ever known babies, like they don't do very well alone. They need to be touched. They need to be held. They need to be covered. If they don't get any touch, they die.
Yeah.
If they get very little touch, they go crazy. You know, like, and this is the thing. You need to love your baby. And a lot of people used to train, you know, before wartime, especially by saying, leave the baby crying, let the baby self-soothe, which is not something a baby can do. But that was the way that they taught people. They're like, let the baby cry in the other room, because they let me cry my whole life. So they should let the baby cry in the other room. No one's going to come help me. Why are they going to help that baby?
That's true. Well, also, it's like, I don't know. I mean, there's also, I feel like there's biological fail safes. Like, something about the sound of a baby crying just has like maybe not even humans, just humans. Like, maybe it's also other animals that are willing to react to that. You know, like, could be
suffering.
monkeys.
You can feel it. You don't like it.
Yeah.
When women suffer, it's bad. It's really manipulative, but it works really well. You know, you just cry. A guy will try to stop that from happening.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait till you have your first kid, and I'm gonna be like, yo, you should name your first child Christopher.
Ooh. Can I do that in like Korean somehow? I should name my kid like, it should give my kid like a really, really ethnic, culturally appropriated name. That's what I should do.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
I always want to name my kid 01, and every woman I've ever been around has always been like, I will not let you do that. I will have your kid just so you can't name it 01. You know, they're always against it.
well, Elon Musk already did some weird shit with his kid's name.
That's the other thing that pisses me off. I had this idea years ago, bro. Like, if that guy, he gets all of he owns X.com and he thinks he's special. Oh, I'm so annoyed. You have no idea.
Xirtus should be owning X.
It's like, if I had the money back when he was like, I could have bought it, but it was like I was 6. It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
You're not a South African diamond warlord heir.
With micro penis and a botched surgery. Yeah.
Shit.
Oh, well. That's probably the reason my penis wasn't small enough. If I was smaller, then maybe I would have cared more.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, damn, Elon Musk. I do think he's the Antichrist. I mean, no,
I really think he just has a botched micro penis surgery. That explained everything to me. It's like, okay, here's a guy who has all these kids and wants people to think he's the greatest gamer, the guy with the biggest rockets. Look at my big phallic rocket. Anybody who builds a penis-shaped rocket, the whole thing. And it's always been the thought that if you're building rockets, you know, that look like missiles that look like penises, it's because people in military have micro penis syndrome. Well, how big is your rocket? How small is your penis? These got to be connected concepts. I mean, it's just, and the idea that it's dysfunctional. Like, if your penis is dysfunctional, that's going to affect you in a lot of ways, right? It's going to make you an overachiever in other things because you're going to need to fill your time. Not chill. Yeah, and like he's apparently just this ketamine therapy all the time, and it just makes a lot of sense, you know.
I'm just amazed he has so many fucking kids. Like, when I found out how many children this man made, I was like,
bro, you could do the same thing if you went to a Catholic third world country and went to a bunch of hostels for 6 months.
Anyone with even a reasonable billionaire would be like, I don't need 12 kids. You know, like I don't need more than.
What's the name of that documentary on the man with 1,000 children? Have you seen that?
No, a guy has 1,000 children.
So he has 10,000 children. He has 30,000 children. It's crazy.
Oh, is that the guy that scammed? Like, he was a doctor and he scammed like women.
He wasn't. No. This guy wasn't a doctor. I don't know how I gotta get there. Come on, man.
And he scammed women getting artificial impregnation. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna put my cum instead."
What do you call a scam? You know, this doesn't seem like a scam to me. So basically, you got an evolutionary, kinked pipe where all of these women are refusing to have sex with men. They have vulnerability issues, and seriously, they're like, we want to have a kid, but we can't have kids. So these are all people that would not have kids without science. It was going to end their family lines. Imagine a lot of these people are the only child of some Dutch family, right? And there's all these women. So then this guy shows up and he says, hey, first off, you don't want to spend money on buying sperm online? You can have mine for free. Second off, if you want to buy my sperm online, you can go to any one of these websites, because I went to all of them and I put my sperm in every single website available. And if you want to do this in another country, fine, because in New Zealand I've done this. In Mexico I've done this. If you are from Africa and you don't have the internet, I will be in Africa. He goes and he gets 2 weeks to just like
He's like, this is
yeah.
what I do. I want to make Planet Kevin.
Planet Kevin. And this guy had 1,000 kids in Holland and another 1,000 kids in Mexico and another few thousand kids in Africa. He has a few hundred kids in New Zealand, maybe more in Australia. And it's like, at a certain point, you're going to get to a point where there's just so many freaking kids, bro, that they all look like each other. And there's a thing they're worried about called the Luke and Leia complex, where if you're related to somebody, you might be attracted to them and you might not know why you're attracted to this person, but they kind of look like you. You're like, oh, we could be a pretty good, and you might be marrying your half sister from the same father, not knowing each other because he's from New Zealand and you're from Holland, or she's from Mexico and you're from Kenya, or whatever the deal is.
Same exact dad.
You're the same dad because 10,000, 20,000 people all have the same dad. And what happens is also maybe it's the grandparents. Maybe he becomes a grandparent to grandkids because there's that many kids. The probability is that much higher. They all have kids too. And here's a guy who's had 10,000 kids. How does that affect their kids? Do they all have 6 kids or 10 kids each? They probably all have a lot more kids than less kids because they come from, this is something that we found to be true epigenetically. If a lot of people have a lot of kids, they have a lot more kids as their grandkids. Unless something happens to keep that from happening, people that have 13 kids, their grandparents had 13 kids. That seems to be a thing. So if all of these people start to be related to each other, the concern would be like, oh, well, you're going to have inbreeding, or you're not going to have control over. But really what it is that you have a nation, because that's what, I mean, look at any country, look at Croatia, like a lot of inbreeding goes on in a Slavic country of only 4 million people, right? Like you marry your cousins or your second cousins and that populates. And that's, how do you think you go from having a tribe to a nation?
Clans.
From a tribe to a clan from a family to a tribe to a clan to a nation is literally sex with your cousins. That's what that means.
But as far as like how to mitigate the effect of like creating dynasties out of like sperm donations, the answer is simple. Like every time someone takes, and this actually works on multiple levels. Like every time someone takes your sperm to have a baby, just increase the price by $100. It's like, oh, one woman likes your genes, and then she took it, increase the price by $100. The next woman likes it, she has to pay $100 more. The next one, 100. So I think that's,
well, this guy ended up wanting to have as many kids as possible, and then the Dutch government actually forbade it. And it was interesting because it's like, how do you stop someone from breeding? How, that is eugenics. That is literally the most Nazi thing you could do, is to tell someone they're not allowed to breed, right? Like they have no self-determination. They have no rights. And that what they're doing is harming the society at large. This is what the Nazis said to the Jews. I know it's different. But at the same time, legally speaking, trying to tell this guy he's not allowed to have kids is an abomination. It's an abominable thing to do. And they did it in such a way, they said, okay, well, if he ever does it again, he has to pay like, I think it's 100,000 euros or 1 million euros for every kid that they find out he's had. So that's exactly your plan. He made it expensive. If you pay $100,000, then you can have his kid. And that's really what they're doing. That's the only way to control that.
That's pretty much where we're headed.
Bro. I don't know. So I have no problem with that. I think if I'm jealous of that guy, I'll openly say it. I wish I'd come up with that plan. I think I did come up with that plan, but I was, again, my penis wasn't small enough to care, I think was the deal. But I think it's a good idea, honestly. Like if I had a nation, I think that would be cool. Admittedly.
It's like some Shadow Moses shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that makes sense too, because then they affect the future.
All right, with that, dude, we went on for
4 hours, bro. It's pretty crazy.
It is pretty. It was a good episode, and I'm like beat. I gotta go to sleep soon, but Thank you
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
like 3 hours later where he's at, everybody. But dude, thank you, dude. Thank you for doing it. We'll do more. We'll do more one-on-ones. These are fun. I know we
these
usually have
these are
18
great, man.
people, but this
I
was
think
good,
I think we'll have great talks in the future, brother.
bro. And everybody, are you all subscribed to Terrorisk? Like and subscribe this video, but also make sure you go to Terrorisk and check out his channel. Let me pull up your stuff. Hold on a second.
No, what I really want is I want everyone in the world to just have an episode with me, and it was like, yeah, come on the episode, come on the podcast. It's like, oh, you're a hobo on meth in North Carolina. Yeah, come on the podcast.
Right?
We'll do a couple of hours on the mic.
Yeah.
talk about
Make sure you guys
bullshit.
follow him on Twitter and X. You can watch his shows there, and then also like and subscribe to his YouTube. And you can watch
Yeah.
Terrorisk. He's got a lot of cool conversations, actually. He does these are like a New York arts vibe thing, and he sits and chills, and they get out, they get deep, they go for the combo. I think it's worth it.
Some raw shit.
Get you a little like in there, and if you watch his videos, like him. Do me a favor, get some likes on his things, so that it helps the algorithm. You know what I mean?
I really want you to show up, though, man. You got to come.
I gotta come to New York. You gotta come to California. I gotta go to New York. We got to go to the South or to Iowa or wherever to do a festival. Canada. We'll do the Canada Festival, the X-Stock. Sounds like the thing to do.
X-Stock. Oh, shit. I want to go to X-Stock.
X-Stock should be on a military base in upstate New York, probably.
Yeah. X-Stock. Damn, that's
Legit.
crazy.
Well, all right, bro. I just want to say thanks again. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thanks to everyone watching. Thank you, Andreas. And it's been a blast.
Peace, bro.
Someday